There are a lot of people scrambling right now. Like, I answer fantasy football questions and grade fantasy football teams every single night on this live stream. But I actually think that we're going to have way more people out today because of the injuries across the league, because of how bad all these rookies look. And it's probably pretty important that we go through and get this show started a little bit earlier than we usually do so we can start looking at these teams. All these teams above are Dynasty teams that I know I keep saying we're going to do a dedicated Dynasty live stream. And I promise you one of these days that will get done and we will go ahead and look at those. But first team we're going to look at here is Iron City Legends, who says, I don't know what to do. I was in the championship in this league for 2 years in a row and we lost both. Now I'm starting at 0-2. What moves should we look to make? So let's go ahead. Let's get a sense of where we are at in the league analyzer. So we're pretty far down here. We are in the 6th spot. And yeah, if we are 0-2 at the moment, we're the only 0-2 team. In your league, there are a lot of teams that are really close. There's one team that's 2-0. There's one team that's 0-2. And everybody else is just sitting here somewhere in the middle. But let's go ahead. Let's dive into this. First thing being will be the league settings. Now it's going to be a 10-team league in which you start up to 4 wide receivers weekly. So the wide receiver depth here is going to matter somewhat. It's not like we can say just, sell every wide receiver that we have to try to get upgrades inside the starting lineup. It's only a league where you can start 3 at the very most. No, like realistically, you could start St. Brown, Nico, Adams, and Devonta Smith all at the same time, right? Now, going over and looking at what we have at quarterback, we are currently sitting with Bo Nix. Bo Nix is in the category of QBs that he's not an elite guy. He would probably be a below average QB1 in a 10-team league going into the future, realistically, just because if you're not inside the top 4 in a 10-team league of like the big 4 quarterbacks, like what you are just default below average. Looking at what we have with Drake May, Drake May sitting out there on the waiver wire, I think is going to be worth a roster spot for me, given the rushing upside that Drake May gives you over the other options currently there on waivers. It probably makes a lot of sense to be able to just pick him up for free and have another quarterback that we can play the matchups with realistically. So I would go through and I would be looking to drop somebody. That drop would probably end up being Braylon Allen, because I'm assuming Tajee Spears is currently on the injured reserve. If Tajee Spears is actually taking a roster spot, we would cut him instead for May. But I'm assuming we're going to cut Braylon for Drake May. If you can't get Drake May, I would cut Braylon Allen anyway for Tyler Algier. If you were to get an injury to Breece Hall, I don't necessarily know if we can say that Braylon Allen turns into a true workhorse running back at this point, because they are getting Isaiah Davis involved somewhat. Whereas on the flip side of that, with Tyler Algier, we can probably assume that he would turn into a 3-down workhorse if anything were to occur to Bijan. Now, going over looking at what we have at receiver, obviously no pivots to make with the waiver wire. Tight end, I would strongly consider cutting TJ Hawkinson in favor of Jake Ferguson. Now, maybe you think that Hawkinson's going to be just fine, and the only reason why he's been so damn bad is JJ McCarthy. And if that's your take, I really hope that you're right. I have TJ Hawkinson as my tight end. And frankly, I am just done with this nonsense. Like, TJ Hawkinson through the first 2 weeks has given us 4.5 and 2.2 fantasy points. It has been horrendous from Hawkinson. So if I had the ability in my own league to pick up Jake Ferg, where Ferg is at 7.5 and 16.8, and this is without a touchdown either. This is just straight target volume, where he's at 18 targets in the first 2 weeks. I would go ahead. I would cut Hawkinson for Jake Ferguson. And then looking at what we can do outside of those waiver wire moves, like technically some of this wide receiver depth is unnecessary, because realistically what we are going to be starting over the next few weeks is Chase Brown, Alvin Kamara, Jordan Mason. Now that Aaron Jones is on the IR, those 3 players are going to be auto starts for us. Then when we go over to receiver, we're going to be starting St. Brown, Nico Collins. So I guess you throw Devontae Adams into that second flex spot, and then you have Isaiah Pacheco, Devonta Smith, Ricky Pearsall all on the bench. But my thing is, are you going to be able to sell them for much in a 10-team league? The answer to that's probably no, right? Like if you were to go through and throw Devonta Smith on the trade block right now, I don't know if you have a single person that comes knocking. And you definitely don't have a single person that's willing to come and send you Lamar Jackson for Bo Nix and Devonta Smith, right? There's no way in hell that's happening. Now, if you wanted to instead look like a tier up and you wanted to send like Devontae Adams and Bo Nix to see if you can get to an elite level quarterback that way, I would 100% by all means go for that. But my issue is I just don't think anybody's going to be accepting that trade. So in terms of trades, I think you're kind of sitting here with your sitting on your hands, not doing much. I think you definitely want to be making those waiver wire pivots that we already discussed. Now, one thing that is worth taking note of, if you are playing for your life next week, say you fall to 0-3 and it's like, hey, it's win or go home time. Then at that point, you essentially need to package together George Kittle with any player in the starting lineup that you can for an upgrade. You need to go to a team that's 2-1. You need to maybe go to that team that's 3-0 and go, hey, I need to win right now. I'm willing to send you over George Kittle and let you win the championship with Kittle. And obviously gas him up a bit. Tell him like, oh, your team's so good, you should be thinking about the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. I mean, blow some smoke up their butt for him. But I don't think you're there yet in needing to trade George Kittle because ultimately I think your team's good. I think you just need Nico Collins to be performing better. But again, I would drop Spears if he's not on your IR and instead he's on your active roster for Drake May. I'm assuming that Spears is actually on your IR. So instead you're going to need to drop Braylon Allen for Drake May. I would drop TJ Hawkinson for Jake Ferg. And then we would start Jake Ferguson this week. And then again at quarterback between Bo Nix and Drake May, we can play the matchups there. But I really appreciate you. I wish I had some trades for you. Let me send you over some free questions just in case you can go through and follow up with this team later on in the year if you wanted. And I'd be super happy to try to help you out with anything that we can. Now let's move this over to our next question. This is going to be from Arch Revan. This is Frankenstein's Monsters. So here we are currently 9th in the league analyzer. We are 2-0 though. So we're winning games even if the league analyzer does not like us. And for us to be 2-0 with Brian Thomas, George Kittle getting injured, JJ McCarthy doing nothing, like that is an impressive feat. Now, clearly what we need to be doing, the very first thing with this team is we are dead last in the league analyzer when it comes to what we have with quarterback. We are currently sitting with just JJ McCarthy. So obviously we need to go through and we need to pick up both Jared Goff and Daniel Jones off the waiver wire. Like both of these quarterbacks are guys that we want to grab. Like I would really like to roster both and then just play the matchups between them. And honestly, I think we would look at Lawrence as well. So our number one waiver wire priority is dropping JJ McCarthy for Jared Goff. Our number two waiver wire priority is going to be dropping Calvin Austin for Daniel Jones. Now, if you are unable to get one of these QBs, we are just going to pivot down and get Trevor Lawrence. Now, going over and looking at running back, I think that there is a change here. For me, Rico Dowdle is a handcuff in one of the worst offenses in the league. So I personally would look at getting off of Dowdle just for a running back that maybe has more upside if we were to get an injury to the guy in front of him. So like I would probably go ahead. I would look to drop Dowdle for Tank Bigsby. Because if you get Barkley going down due to an injury, Tank Bigsby probably does turn into a league winner for you. And going over and looking at receiver, for me, I would probably rather have Troy Franklin over Wan'Dale Robinson, but I'm not going to fault you either way there. I completely understand if you want to hold on to Wan'Dale after the phenomenal week that he had. For me, I would probably prefer Zach Ertz over Harold Fannin, but it's going to be close there. But regardless, the instant moves that we need to make, cut Dowdle, pick up Tank Bigsby, cut Calvin Austin and JJ McCarthy and pick up two of those quarterbacks, hopefully getting Jared Goff and Daniel Jones, but we would also settle for Trevor Lawrence if we needed to. But if we were looking at any trades with this team, we have Travis Etienne, Chuba Hubbard at running back. Pacheco's our RB3. So running back's the worst position on our team outside of QB. Obviously, I would love to upgrade running back if we can. But let's go through and let's explore how we could do that. Because this is a league in which you can start up to 4 wide receivers weekly. Like, wide receiver depth matters. So we need St. Brown, Brian Thomas, Ladd McConkey jammed into our starting lineup. And then, like, wide receiver 4, Shaheed's, like, in your starting lineup at the moment. So we don't have any expendable value to make a trade. We go over to tight end, George Kittle's injured. Going over to quarterback, we have none. We're already on the waiver wire. So there's no reasonable path forward for us to upgrade running back. You sell a wide receiver for a running back, all you did was move the hole from your running back position to your flex spot. If this team was 0-2, I would say, you know what? Your skill positional depth in a 12-team start 8 format is so lackluster, it's time for us to it's time for us to trade George Kittle and get a running back that we can actually start. But we're 2-0 at the moment. Looking at the other 2-0 teams, we have the second most points out of them. So we are second in the league. So it actually suits us to hold on to Kittle. Even if you split and go 2-2 over the next 4 weeks, then at that point, you're rolling in to week 6, 4-2 with George Kittle back in. And then you're able to go through and you're able to hopefully just get a significant upgrade at tight end and roll the rest of the way. So I'm not making any trades here. I think you make those waiver wire pivots for sure. But yeah, I don't know if you have the depth to be making any trades. But I really appreciate you and really hope that I was able to help you out in some way here. And let me send you over some of those free questions. Again, I really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in any way. But 2-0, I don't think you're... I know it's rude for me to say, and congrats on being 2-0. Like, it's crazy that you're 2-0, and this team down here with Mahomes, Jonathan Taylor, Trey McBride, they're not. Like, I feel like we've maybe gotten a little bit lucky. What's our points against at the moment? 210. So, honestly, we're not even at the bottom of the league with points against either. But, yeah, congrats on being 2-0, and it gives you a lot of flexibility to wait for George Kittle where you don't need to make that trade right now. Now, let's move this over to K&Smith. Says, again, I got an A+ draft gate, and I'm on the number 1 team according to your site, but I'm starting off 0-2. What should we do? Well, we're the number 2 team at this point. This is a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex starting lineup requirement. We had the George Kittle injury, which obviously is going to negatively impact us. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. So the wide receiver depth and just the skill positional depth overall is not gonna matter much. So I would like having the elite quarterback. I would like having the elite tight ends. Just because wide receiver depth's not going to be that important. Like, realistically, if Bo Nix is our QB1, I think that we would probably be willing to go ahead and cut Kayshon Boutte and pick up a different quarterback here. Obviously, I'm not picking up Goff. I'm not picking up Daniel Jones to start over Bo Nix. But just to give us the optionality in the future to maybe make a pivot dependent on matchups. So I would drop Boutte. My number 1 priority would be Jared Goff. My number 2 priority would be Daniel Jones. Going over and looking at what we have with running backs, Braylon Allen's currently out there on waivers, but for me, I would rather have Kamara. I'd rather have Etienne. I'd rather have Harvey. I'd rather have Warren. I'd rather have Sharp. I'd rather have Tootin. So honestly, I really like your running back room in general. I just think that you're in a situation in which you maybe need to wait for like RG Harvey to break out later in the year. Then obviously it's going to be a lot better at that point. Wide receiver, Nico Collins has been horrendous. DJ Moore is also really, really bad, at least in comparison to where you drafted them in the production that they've given you. And then we have the George Kittle injury. So for you to be sitting here at 0-2, it does put you in a little bit of a unique situation in which you maybe should look to start moving off some of these assets that give you long-term upside, but not production in the short term. Like if I'm 0-2, I'm going to be real quick to see what we could get by selling George Kittle. I'm going to be real quick to see what we could get by selling RJ Harvey. Now, the issue is obviously you're selling either one of these players. You are selling them at a discount at this moment. But if you could pivot from like Kittle, package him with ETN to try to go get a running back in the range of Josh Jacobs, Devon Achane, Bucky Irving, like that would generally be an absolute no-brainer for this team, where maybe you're sacrificing a little bit of upside not having Kittle in the long term. But again, you're 0-2. We can't just be prioritizing long-term upside. We need to, at one point, be prioritizing how we get points into this starting lineup right now. And then in terms of selling RJ Harvey, obviously I think it would be an interesting spot to see what we could get for Harvey, but nobody's buying him right now. Like you are just kind of stuck with him. So I think we drop Kayshon Boutte, pick up a quarterback, whether that's Goff, whether that's Daniel Jones, and being 0-2, I think you're in a spot in which it does make sense for you to try to sell George Kittle with like DJ Moore and go get a significant upgrade for the flex, or George Kittle with Travis Etienne to get a significant upgrade at running back too. And then we send up our hope and a prayer that Nico Collins bounces back in a big time way, which he has been getting the target volume, right? Do we have the stats loaded in from the games last night? Yeah. Nico Collins did have 9 targets in this game last night. Just in terms of the yardage totals, they weren't particularly there. But let me send you over those free questions just in case you have anything that you would want to follow up with. And I can see in the chat that we hit 100 likes on the stream. I'm going to wait until we hit 200 likes on the live stream to give away some of those free questions. And then we'll give away free questions to 4 different people when we hit 200 likes. Again, if you haven't already, make sure you drop a like on this live stream. And I'm sure y'all are already all subscribed. But if you subscribe, we're giving away a ton of free questions every single stream. And remind me when we hit 200 likes in the stream, then we'll give away free questions to 4 different people. Now, Ire Fire says, starting off as a rough 0-2, need some idea of what we can trade for. Aiming for a better running back and quarterback if possible. League is starting 2 running backs, 3 receivers, a tight end, and a flex. So yeah, it's a start 8 format. Wide receivers going to matter a little bit more. Quarterback, tight end going to matter a little less. I feel like my team is better than 0-2. If I wanted to trade for Saquon and Goff from different teams, is it worth it? And what should we offer? Jared Goff is just kind of in like the streaming range of quarterbacks where we've seen back-to-back teams almost that they have Bo Nix as their only QB and Jared Goff's out there on the waiver wire. And I'm like, you know what? If you can get Jared Goff for free, I really do like the idea of going out there and just picking him up and playing the matchups going into the future. But I don't know if we're going to be paying up for a quarterback like Jared Goff. So yeah, we are 4th in the league analyzers. So we're definitely better than what our record is. We have Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. Again, quarterback's not going to matter as much in your league specifically because we are effectively starting 4 wide receivers weekly. Like right now we have Lamb, Adams, Sutton in our starting lineup. And then I guess maybe you can actually consider Tony Pollard there in the flex just until Tajay Spears comes back. Like Pollard's had back-to-back performances with effectively a 90% snap rate. Looking at what we have at quarterback right now, we have T-Law. Like, I would say Brock Purdy for a lot of people is just like, oh, okay, well, if you need some help at quarterback, might as well pick up Brock Purdy for free off the waiver wire and then hope that he comes back in a couple weeks and you're in a good spot. But here, if you're 0-2, the last thing we're doing is thinking about the future. You need to be thinking about the now, and we need to make sure that we can actually win some games with how things sit currently. So yeah, I would not pick up Purdy off the waiver wire. I don't mind at all if you think that we should go out there and trade for a quarterback. Again, just like the Jared Goff range is not necessarily a quarterback range that we typically go after unless we get them just as like a throw-in a deal, right? Now, looking at what we have at running back, we don't really have anybody of interest out there on waivers. Wide receiver, we do have Troy Franklin. I would drop Trey Tucker for Troy Franklin right away. Tight ends, there's nobody on waivers. We have a bunch of tight ends on this team. I think Britton Strange is somebody that's like, man, I don't really know if we need to be rostering 3 tight ends. If that third tight end's Britton Strange, can we just go out there and drop him? But with that in mind, Like, the waiver wire is barren. There's not really anybody that's interesting in this league. So I'm okay with you rostering Britton Strange just because the alternative is gross as well. Looking at what we can do at running back, we have Bucky, we have Brees, we have Pollard. Pollard's a running back that, like, I'm 2-0 in my league. So realistically, where I think, you know what, you probably get Spears back in the long term. I probably look to sell Pollard if I can, but you're 0-2. You're in the exact opposite scenario. You need to be holding on to Tony Pollard. You need the next 2 weeks, that snap share, and you need to have somebody that we can feel comfortable jamming in our flex. Well, what expendable pieces do we have on this team? We don't have. I mean, if this was a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, I'd go, man, you got to sell Devontae Adams. Sell Devontae Adams and go out there and get a quarterback that we can start right now. But this is a league in which you're starting up to 4 wide receivers weekly. So the running back wide receiver depth matters. You need to win games right now, so Tony Pollard's relevant for you. I would cut Trey Tucker. I would pick up Troy Franklin. I honestly, F it. I would cut Britton Strange and I'd pick up Brock Purdy. I understand that we're not looking in the long term on an 0-2 team and we need to be winning games right this second. But what's the alternative? So yeah, make the 2 waiver wire plays and then let's send up a prayer that things turn around sometime soon because it's not looking great. Okay, so let's go over and let's look at what we have for Broncos. Broncos wide receiver, you still are starting A.J. Brown this week, even if it's gross. Let's start him over Keenan. And then here for the flex, Keenan Allen versus Ricky Pearsall is going to be tough. Keenan Allen's obviously been the much better wide receiver through the first 2 weeks. You're looking at Keenan Allen with touchdowns in both games. And I don't know why the stats aren't loading there. Here you have Ricky Pearsall, 14.8, 9.2 fantasy points in the first 2. Come on, stats, load for Keenan. It looks, we got 19.8, 17.1. Looking at the target volume, you had 12 total receptions for Keenan Allen. Obviously, the touchdowns being there is really exciting. Okay. So not a super easy call. Can y'all please spam the chat? Who would you rather start this week? Would you rather start Keenan Allen or Ricky Pearsall? We're going to go Keenan Allen or Sticky Ricky. Please let me know in the chat. And we've had questions open for the past like 20 minutes. I'm going to close them just because I have no idea how far behind we are. And once we catch back up, we'll open them again for like another 20 minutes. But I think that's what we're going to do from now on is we're just going to, instead of having them open at all times, we're going to be a lot tighter with our windows of when they're open. Pearsall, Keenan, Pearsall, Keenan, Keenan. I know I'm not even sharing y'all's messages on the screen. I apologize about that, ladies and gentlemen. Keenan, Ricky, Keenan, Ricky, Ricky, Keenan. Keenan, Ricky, Keenan, Ricky, Ricky, Keenan. Keenan, Keenan, Ricky, Ricky, Keenan. It looks like it's split 50-50. It's going to be up to you. We definitely know you don't start RJ Harvey, though. And maybe it's down to the Jawan Jennings status and how healthy Jennings is. But it looks like we hit 200 likes on the stream. So again, every time we hit 100 likes on the live stream, we're giving away free questions in the chat. All you got to do to get those free questions is drop a like on the stream, be subscribed to the channel, and then drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat. We're going to go ahead and we're going to give away 4 free questions right now to 4 different people. Okay. Let's see this next one coming out from AC Moreno. Says, my flex would get worse. Maybe we would add Spears. It's a league in which depth does matter. David Njoku is effectively a 0. And Njoku to Kincaid, who cares? Travis Etienne and Ted McMillan versus CeeDee Lamb. It's going to be CeeDee Lamb by a mile. I don't care if your flex gets worse. I don't care what your team looks like. Like CeeDee Lamb, one of the very few like true elite assets at this point that you have no question marks about. Okay. But let's see who our next question is going to be for. It's going to be Bengals fans since 05. We will answer this and then we will, let's answer this. No. Let's give away the free questions first, then we'll answer it. And I think I'm getting addicted to kombucha, by the way. I had never had it. until a couple weeks ago. But, ooh, I'm getting addicted. Okay. Obi Cooks. Let's go ahead and let's send you over a free question. Thank you for hanging out with us in the stream. Obi Cooks. Just found you and just sent you over that free start sit question. Thank you again. Send this one out to Isaiah FC. Who's always out in the live stream with us. Isaiah just found you and just sent you out that free start set question. Again, thank you again for hanging out with us. Let's go Kev Dog as our next winner. We're going to go Kev Dog with, there's two usernames, one with numbers on the end. I'm not going to do the numbers on the end. And let's go ahead and let's do Pluxed as our fourth winner. I've just found you and just sent you over that free start sit question. Again, thank you so much for hanging out with us in the live stream. And yeah, please in the chat, let me know when we hit 300 likes, then we'll go ahead and we'll pick some more winners to give out free questions too. Now, Bengals fans since 05, running back between Hubbard, Etienne, Connor. I'm going to go ahead. I will take Travis Etienne this week. And then down in the flex, we're going to go with the combination of Chuba Hubbard and James Conner over the wide receivers. Just get the running backs with the guaranteed volume. Now, that Morris kid, always happy to see us. His thoughts could counter for Cook instead of Jacobs. Nico and Chase look rough so far. I'd have two suspended wide receivers in the short term. So let's check out the team here. So before this trade at running back, we are sitting with Chase Brown, James Conner, Tyrone Tracy. So Tracy just got nuked, and James Conner kind of going in the opposite direction. Going over, looking at the receiver position, right now we are starting JSN, Nico Collins, DK and Metcalf, and then we can start up the four wide receivers here weekly. And considering Tracy just got nuked, we kind of need to start that fourth wide receiver, and that's either going to be Pittman or Jawan Jennings, depending on matchup. So after we were to make this, you would upgrade at running back from Chase Brown to Josh Jacobs. You would upgrade at wide receiver from JSN to Amon-Ra St. Brown. And we are downgrading from Nico to Rashee Rice to get it done. Will it tell me? No, it's not going to tell me what your record is here. I need to get the devs to include that. So if this was a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, I'd be all about it, because ultimately 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. Who cares about the depth? Yeah, we can just shoot for the upside with Rashee Rice later on. But I still think that Nico Collins is going to be a wide receiver 1 rest of season for sure. I think this trade would come down to my record. If I was 1-1, I'd say it's a fair deal, and it's going to be up to you. If you're 2-0, I think that you can roll with the punches with no Rashee Rice for the next month, and we can go for the long-term upside. However, if you're 0-2, you cannot afford to make this trade. You can't afford to down tier over the next 4 weeks, and we need to start winning games right now. So I know that's maybe not the best answer, but I do think that this is a relatively fair trade for sure. And I think it maybe just comes down to when exactly we are looking for that production. But again, really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. Okay, let's move this over to our next one. This is Tris Santos trading Kyron Williams for Mike Evans. So looking at what we have at running back, we'd have Barkley, Hampton. Are you that excited to start Amari and Hampton? I know our wide receiver room's not the best. For me, I would still probably go with Kyron Williams for the time being. I understand it's concerning for the red zone usage. For Blake Corum to get the rushing touchdown, but we're still rolling with Kyron. Evans is about to have Godwin added back into the offense. So Mutiny coming through here for the flex. I'm going to go Marv still over Diggs and Pittman. Like, Diggs isn't a full-time player. And I don't know if you get the same upside with Marv over. Pittman. Now, Special X BTW. Trading Javonte and Marr for Brian Thomas and Olave. Here's my thing. This may end up being the best trade. Like this, we could look back on this and go, man, I can't believe we freaking sold Javonte Williams to get to Brian Thomas. People so overreacted over the first 2 weeks. It could also go in the exact opposite scenario, going, oh my gosh, can you believe somebody traded the starting running back for the Dallas Cowboys for Brian Thomas, who's just completely lost it? If this was my team, let's see what we have at running back and what would be left over with. Running back would be left over with you have Jordan Mason breaking out as your RB3. We have HN, Chase Brown, Jordan Mason. You have a phenomenal team here. I know this is going to sound dumb, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with this, with how damn good Javonte's been through the first 2 weeks and how bad Brian Thomas has been. But I think that we need to go through, and I think that we need to just take the Brian Thomas side of this. If this was my team, that's what I would do. And I 100% admit that it could be a horrible mistake, and I could be just flat out wrong. Okay. Now, R Red says, drop Tootin, Scattaboo, Harvey, or Judkins. I would drop Tootin out of this list. Big Boy Jimmy. This is Lamb versus Nico and Brees. 10-team format. I mean, honestly, unless this is a 14-team format, I'm going to go with the CD Lamb side. Lamb's completely different tier than anybody in that. Now, that Morris Kid says, thoughts, I'm not a fan, but Brown might be dust. I don't know if Brown's dust. He's been the only running back to have a carry in Cincinnati. I'd much prefer having Achane over Brown, but I'd much rather have Nico over Terry. I would honestly rather go Chase Brown and Nico Collins here. Again, this has been the only dude to carry the ball in Cincinnati so far this season. I definitely don't like the Joe Burrow injury for him. I'll say that. But Big Effin' Rat says, we just hit 300 likes in the stream. So we'll go ahead and we'll give away some more free questions. All you got to do to get free questions is drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat and drop a like on this live stream. And again, giving away a ton of free questions as we do every stream. Isaiah says, please help me 0-2. Okay, let's figure this out. Running back, still give me Amari Hampton over Nick Chubb. And Trey Benson pretty easily, both this week and in the long term. At least with Hampton, you still have had the snap rate. I know that he got benched immediately after the fumble is the best thing to ever happen to me. But I think you got to go with him. And then going over to the flex, you're going to start Jerry Jeudy here. Absolutely hate the matchup going up against the Green Bay Packers. The Browns do project to be the worst offense in the NFL yet again this week. But, I can't start Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, the receiving usage is not going to be consistently there. But let's go through and let's send Lou a free question. Username I love turkey here. Okay, just found you, my guy, and just sent you over that free start sit. Thank you so much for always hanging out with us on the stream. And let's go ahead and let's send one out to Blank Palette. Okay, just found you and just sent you over that free start sit as well. Again, thank you so much for hanging out with us in this stream. Okay, and let me know when we hit 400 likes on the stream, and then we'll go ahead and we'll send out some more free questions. But Mr. Meowgy trading Barkley and Worthy for Tet and London. This is Barkley for me. 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. Wide receiver depth's not going to be that important. Yeah, just give me Saquon Barkley. Now, Aiden 31 trading Travis Etienne Rome for Trevion and Brian Thomas. Give me Brian Thomas over. Brian Thomas is the best player in the deal. Trevion Henderson's the worst player in the deal. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, 10-team league. So typically in a format like this, I am wanting to go with the best player in the trade. So if we were looking at doing anything here, I'm fine going getting Brian Thomas. What are we going to have left over? We have CMC, James Conner in our lineup in the short term. Wide receiver, like you already have Nico Ladd Evans. Like you're so strong at receiver, I don't think you need to make this trade. But if you wanted to buy low on Brian Thomas, I'm not going to fault you for it. Now, Din Wong says, we have Kittle in the IR plus CMC. We'll send this trade. Yeah, you want McCaffrey, and it's not even remotely close. Not even a thought for me. I would rather roll with Christian McCaffrey in an empty an empty tight end spot. Like even if you had absolutely no tight end available to you whatsoever on the waiver wire, I would rather start CMC here. And an empty tight end. Now, Blackfire says, was offered this trade, but I want the value. I mean, I would way rather have Nico Collins over A.J. Brown. At least Nico Collins is drawing targets. Chris says 2-0, but with low points. Does this move the needle? Josh Allen to St. Brown. Give me St. Brown. But then I'd way rather have London than anything on the other side. This is a Dynasty trade as well. Yeah, this is easy. London and Josh Allen. Whether it's Dynasty redraft, it doesn't even matter. King Bob, Egbuka and James Conner versus James Cook and Terry. James Cook is tiers ahead of James Conner at this point. James Conner, the usage hasn't been there. Trey Benson's been getting involved as a receiver. James Conner's been horribly inefficient. Like, I would almost rather have James Cook over Conner and Egbuka, not even including Terry McLaurin. You get Terry McLaurin here, we're going with it. Kev Dog, I have my start sit questions closed at the moment. We need to catch up on questions, and then we'll turn them back on later in the stream. Looking at what we have with Aiden here. Higgins, Rome, Addison versus Harvey and London. I'd rather have Harvey over Addison, and I'd rather have London over Higgins and Rome post-Burrow injury. So I'm going to go with the Drake London side. Hope I'm wrong. I have T. Higgins on my team, and I traded away London. But, yeah, I think that's a completely fair price point to get rid of T. Higgins at. B. Farrell says, need running backs badly. Is this worth it? 14-team format. Obviously, running backs are tougher to come by, but so will quarterbacks be. Quarterbacks on the waiver wire right now, there are actually a decent amount of them. You got Daniel Jones, you got Purdy, you got Penix, you got Fields. So I understand the thought process here, and I'm not going to fault you for it. I'm somebody that has Travis Etienne on his team. And I'm going to be honest with you, Chief. I'm a little bit worried about Byshell Tootin in the long term. So I completely understand your scenario where you actually do have options on waivers at quarterback the way that running backs aren't. But I would try to get a better running back than Etienne if I was selling Jalen Hurts. Not going to fault you if you go for this, but I would assume that you could get a better price tag. Now, Zach with the start sit. Here in the flex, you play Javonte Williams. Like, the Dallas-Chicago game should have a zillion points scored in it right now based off what sportsbooks are saying with the over-under. And Javonte's a 3-down back until we see otherwise. I do not care. I have Jonathan Taylor ranked straight up over Jamar Chase rest of season. Like, with no Burrow, I would rather have JT. You're telling me in a 14-team format I can get JT and Ertz? Yeah, I'll make this move. Now, BJ Shad, this is Egbuka versus Kenneth Walker. Running back at the moment, we have we just lost Aaron Jones. So you're having to look at possibly starting Amari and Hampton. It's a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex where we have JSN, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Nico Collins. So Egbuka's never hitting your starting lineup. Yeah, I'm completely fine going through and trading Egbuka for Kenneth Walker. 100%. And it looks like we just hit 400 likes on the stream. So we'll go ahead and we'll send away some more free questions. Again, all you got to do, we're giving away free questions on the live stream. Literally every single day, I'm going to be answering fantasy football questions until Christmas. It's just drop a like on the stream, be subscribed to the channel, and then drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat. Shicey, I would trade Igbuka for Ladd McConkey for sure, especially knowing that Godwin's eventually going to come back. Ethan trading Genty, Pittman, Loveland for Jordan Mason, Jacoby, and Sam Laporta. Maybe in the short term, the Jacoby Myers, Jordan Mason side wins, but in the long term, I'm for sure going to take Ashton Genty, and I don't even think this is remotely close. Now, JP with the trade. This is Jamar versus Derrick Henry. I have Derrick Henry ranked over Jamar at this point. Would you do this trade for JSN instead of Derrick Henry? Ooh. That's tougher. I still have Chase ranked over JSN because JSN also has a garbage quarterback. But 14-team format where running backs are tougher to come by, yeah, I'll trade Chase for Henry. Now, Mystic Elite says, should I be looking to trade Cam Ward paired with somebody since Burrow's out for the season? And I literally could not even begin to wrap my head around why you would do this. This is a Dynasty Superflex league where we just lost Joe Burrow. So I don't understand why we would trade a quarterback away unless you're wanting to rebuild and go like, yeah, I'm not going to win it this year, so let's plan for the long term. But if you were going to rebuild, why the hell are you selling Cam Ward? Cam Ward's the guy that you want to build for the long term with. So no, I can't even begin to understand why you would do this. Maybe you're operating at level 100 and my brain can't comprehend that. But I know I'm not doing that, my guy. I think you keep Cam Ward. But let me pick some people in the chat real quick to give some free questions to. We got Tully G. Let me see if I can find you on the site. And if I can, I'll send that over. Tully G, just found you and just sent you over that free start sit. Appreciate you hanging out with us, my guy. It looks like that's the second one that you've won on these streams. And then let's send one over to Port 45 as well. Just found you and just sent you over that free start sit. Thank you again for hanging out with us in the live stream. All right, let's move this over. And let me know when we hit, I think our next 100 like goal is 500. Let me know when we hit that and we'll send out some more free questions. Okay. Manster, if you're wanting the free team review with the Underdog sign up, that was something that we did last year. We're not doing that this year. I mean, I never said that we were doing that this year. Badabuski says, Hampton's my running back too, and I have no backup tight end anymore. So CMC to Kamara, clear downgrade. This is a big deal. Let me just throw this into the trade calculator. I will say in general, I hate trades like this. Like, you give me your 4 best players, I'll give you my 4 best players. So we are sending Caleb, Wilson, and Warren plus down tiering from CMC to Kamara for like Mahomes, Collins, and London. Looking at this in the trade calculator using the average expert rankings on the site, it says you slightly win. However, if you're going to use my rankings, it says it's a fair deal. So it's up to you. In general, I don't like giving up the best player. And at the same time, I don't like trades this big. Like, what's the point of this if you're saying that you have no backup tight end? Why are we sending Tyler Warren unless you think it's a no-brainer that you're winning? And I don't know if that's a no-brainer that you're winning. To refresh this, see if we have any more questions. Yes, and I know everybody in the chat saying that they can't click me on the site. That's normal. I completely understand. Again, we are going to have questions open at the beginning of every single live stream. People can send in questions. We had them open for about 20 minutes. Then we closed them. They'll be closed for about 20 to 30 minutes. And when we're caught up on all the questions, then we'll turn them back on. But yeah, through these streams, they'll be on, off, on, off. That way I can just manage how many we have and make sure that we don't fall too far behind. But Cypher here trading Jordan Mason and Nico Collins for Jamar Chase. So obviously Jordan Mason in the short term looks like an auto start for us. But we are up tiering at wide receiver. 10-team league where you don't need the running back production, I'm fine with you going and getting Jamar here, but it does look like Jordan Mason's locked and loaded to be a running back 2 for the next month. Now, Nathan with the next question. Right now on the bench, JMO would be the best option to get inside the starting lineup. And against the Ravens, I think I would start Jamison Williams over Jalen Warren. I would also definitely look for the waiver wire tight end over Loveland. Like, no part of me wants to start Loveland. Okay. Now, Profit, 0-2 start. 9th wide receiver room. Do I trade for a wide receiver and a running back with the higher ceiling? Number 2 waiver spot, Tyreek and Evans, not it. Tyreek and Evans are fine. In your league settings, Mark Andrews is a cut. He's not worth a roster spot. You're effectively trading Deebo Samuel for Keenan Allen and Tony Pollard. I don't like down tiering in your league settings, but this does feel okay. Like, Tony Pollard for sure would be your RB3, and you're probably throwing him into the flex spot if you make this move. So I'm okay with it, mainly because I think that Mark Andrews isn't worth the roster spot. So I'm only viewing it as you're really trading away Deebo Samuel, because I think you should cut Andrews anyway. Now, Arrow G, quarterback, give me Dak over Fields. Dak's going to crush this week against Chicago. Running back, Pollard, must-start option, 20 opportunities per game over the past 2 weeks. Then wide receiver, I'm going to go London and Brian Thomas, expecting a bounce back for both wide receivers who have been getting the volume. Now, JJT, trading Ibuka for Genty. Genty and not close. I understand that Ibuka's been better, but we're going to assume that Genty's efficiency does eventually get an uptick once his team can hopefully block a little bit better for him. And also eventually you are going to be getting back in Chris Godwin to this offense. Now, Ryan87 Mets trading Judkins and Wilson for Drake London. 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league. Running back, we have Jacobs, Corey Krosky, Merritt, Amari, and Hampton. I think it's a completely fair price point to go and get London. I will say that you're probably not in a position of strength to be trading away a running back, though. Ghost says, on waiver wire, dropping Coleman for Keenan Allen. Should I drop Pacheco to pick up Judkins? Yes, I would. And then drop Golden for Fannin. Drop Golden for Fannin or Jawan. Tight end, you have Laporta. No, I wouldn't do that. You're starting Laporta over them regardless. Wide receiver, we're going to be starting Nico and Sutton, even if you pick up Keenan. Running back, give me Travis Etienne. And then the flex, we're probably going to be going with Tony Pollard. But yeah, I do agree. I think you want to go out there and drop Pacheco for Judkins at this point. Okay, so it looks like we just hit 500 likes on the stream. So let's go ahead and let's send out some more free questions. All you got to do to get those again will be to 1, hit the like button. 2, drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat so I know who to send those questions to. Now, Post Dylan, always happy to see. Has been a long time member of the flock. And yes, I would still trade Igbuka for Ladd McConkey. If you look at the target volume between Ladd and Igbuka, it's been the same. Like, Ladd almost had a couple of breakaway plays that he just got tied up and tackled near the line of scrimmage last week, but could have had a much, much bigger day. Okay. But let's figure out some free people in the chat to give some questions to. Let's first look up Skelly Elk and send some free questions over your way. Skelly Elk, just found you and just sent you over that free start sit. Thank you so much for hanging out with us in the stream. Let's go MVS 21. I think we've sent you a bunch of free questions, but again, I'm not going to punish somebody for hanging out with us too much in the live stream, right? But again, thank you. Of course, I appreciate all y'all hanging out with us this fine, beautiful, beautiful Tuesday night. Just sent you over that free start sit as well. And let's move this over. Lion says, did this trade earlier today. What are your thoughts? JCM, Drake London versus Kenneth Walker, Ricky Pearsall, and Travis Hunter. Little bit of a deeper format. Clear upgrade at running back. Clear downgrade at wide receiver. Running back, you had no running back too. So I completely understand why you made the deal. I don't necessarily think that you made out like a bandit when it comes to value with it. Like, I think Drake London's still going to absolutely crush this year. But yeah, your running back room is garbage. So I understand you going for it. Now, Dr. Waffles trading T. Higgins and Jordan Addison for Jalen Waddle and Javonte. I'm completely fine if you wanted to make this deal for Javonte. Like, I have T. Higgins myself, but with no Burrow, obviously we are very much concerned about the T. Higgins outlook. Okay, now. Mott Nolan, this is Terry versus Nico and James Conner. I would rather have Nico Collins over Terry McLaurin, and it's not even remotely close. Like, James Conner's on the wrong side of this. You throw James Conner on the side with Terry, I still would rather have Nico Collins. Now, Smoggy Curls says, help find a trade in my league for a running back, wide receiver to dump, Ladd, Herbert, and target Keenan. Okay, so, yeah. I know that you're frustrated with Ladd, but you can't sell Ladd now. Running back, we have CMC, Jordan Mason, Trevion. You're chilling. Like, I'll make this trade, don't get me wrong. But the thing is, too, man, you can start so many wide receivers in your league. So, like, I completely understand the thought process going Mason. I thought that Trevion Henderson was going to be startable from the jump. Trevion Henderson's been a complete turd. I can't trust this dude. Like, I understand. Like, the thought process and saying like, oh, I have Trevion Henderson. He was my running back too. I need to go trade for a better running back. However, Jordan Mason comes in to save you. With Jordan Mason taking over as the starting running back with Aaron Jones going to the IR, you have a viable running back two to play now. Like, you can jam in CMC Jordan Mason, and then by the time Aaron Jones comes back, then you probably have like Trevion Henderson breaking out by that point. So sure, you want to go make this deal, by all means do it. But man, I think you're fine at running back. I would agree to panic if we didn't have Jordan Mason, but you're in a good spot. Now, Manny with the trade. This is Debo and Jacoby Myers versus Genty and Diggs. Yeah, 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. Give me the best player in the deal. I think that is Ashton Genty still. ISO Flip says, drop Luther Burden or Deonta Thornton for Troy Franklin. I would drop Deonta Thornton for Troy Franklin for sure. Luther Burden obviously hasn't been used at all, but coaching staff did come out this week and they said that they're going to make an active effort to get Luther Burden more involved. So I think it would be a little bit hesitant to go out there and drop him right this second. Okay. Now let's refresh this. And let me move over. And I think we have some team reviews that we need to get through. We had been filtering those out. Let's get through the team reviews and then we will go over and turn back on the other questions. But we have a bunch of team reviews to get through. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to turn off, make sure the team reviews are turned off, as we cannot handle any more of these coming in. And again, I'm sorry that we haven't been able to keep the questions open all day like we used to be able to. I promise y'all I'm trying my absolute best. I'm live streaming every single day. You're not going to find another person that refuses to take a single day off of answering fantasy football questions. I haven't missed a day of answering your questions in like 4 years during the season. But it's there's just only so much time in the day for me. So we are having to like turn off questions, turn on questions, turn off questions, turn off questions. I will let y'all know when the questions are turned back on where you can submit more. But Grimsley Bear, happy to have you out. Let me send you over some of these free questions real quick. My guy says, let me know what we need to do. I'm 1-1, but the running back situation with Hampton and Henderson looks brutal. Need to figure out a move to get a running back. Thinking Ibuka straight up for Lamar or Lamar for a running back QB combo. Here's the thing. It is a 10-team league where you only start 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. We're the number 1 team in the league analyzer. We're currently sitting at 1-1. And yes, your running back room is a complete disaster. You're looking at Amari and Hampton and Trevion Henderson as your running back 1 and running back 2. And here, let me address this. We'll actually answer that in a second. But if we're looking at Hampton and Trevion as your running back 1 and running back 2, no question about it. You need to go out and you need to trade for a running back. But if you can only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex at the very most, I like having the elite quarterback. I like having the elite tight end. I'm not selling Lamar in this format. You can start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex, and Ibuka will never hit your starting lineup here. Jamison Williams will never hit your starting lineup here. Josh Downs can never hit your starting lineup. So you need to do anything that you can to sell a wide receiver for an RB. So if we're looking at moves to make right this second, first thing I'm doing is cutting David Njoku. There's no world at this point where I'm starting David Njoku, who's arguably the second tight end in the worst offense in the NFL, over Tyler Warren. That's just not something you could begin to think about. So cut Njoku, pick up Joe Mixon, or pick up Byshell too. Neither running back here. A running back that possibly in the future actually could slide into your starting lineup. You need to give yourself as many shots at the running back position as you possibly can. Then going over and looking at trades, we are selling a wide receiver for a running back. It's as simple as that. Whether it's a top guy, whether you're selling Puka Nacua for Bijan Robinson, Puka Nacua for Barkley, Puka Nacua for Jahmyr Gibbs, Puka Nacua for Christian McCaffrey, you can go out there and you can swap Puka for one of those RBs. Because then you still have all the wide receiver production in the world. You still have Nico, Marv, Ibuka, JMO. You're fine. But if you had Bijan Robinson as your running back 1, then Hampton RB2, Trevion RB3, then at that point you're not having to rely on the rookies. And instead, they're just upside shots for you. Whether it's selling Nico Collins for Bucky Irving, Nico Collins for Devon Achane, Nico Collins for Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, we would go ahead and make that move. Whether it's selling Marvin Harrison for, you're not going to get James Cook anymore. If you got real desperate, you could go through and try to sell like Marvin Harrison for Travis Etienne, which I think you're definitely like, you can make an argument that you're losing value there, but who cares if Ibuka slides in as your wide receiver 3 and you can only start 3 wide receivers anyway? Etienne would immediately be your running back 1 on this team. So do not sell Lamar. I would absolutely hate that idea. I think you need to cut Njoku, pick up either Mixon or Byshell Tootin, and then sell a wide receiver for a running back. We need to transition some of this wide receiver value over to RB, just because, again, at the very most, you can only put 3 running backs into your starting lineup. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this, my friend. And again, thank you for hanging out with us in this live stream. And let me double check to make sure that I sent you over those free questions. Now let's move this to our next one. It says, this is from Asher Fro, says, dropping Henry and picking up Ferg or Ertz. So we are currently 0-2, However, we are the number one team in the league analyzer. We are dead middle in the league when it comes to actual points scored. I guess we've just been unlucky. What are our points against? Yeah, you've had more points scored against you than anybody else in this league, and it's not even remotely close. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to learn how to play defense. You need to learn how to get into the head of your opponents and drive that points against down, because if you keep letting them drop the most points in the league against you, you're not going to have a fun time this year, my guy. But real quick, it looks like we just hit 600 likes on the stream. So let's give away some more free questions in the chat. Just one, if you want that free question, all you got to do to qualify is hit the like button and drop your flockfantasy.com username in the live chat. Okay. But Asher, let's dive into this. This is a league in which we can start 4 wide receivers weekly, but it's an 8-team format. So depth, super easy to come by, right? Like, we're not really ever stressing to be able to get players into our starting lineup. I mean, naturally, we should always have options that we are excited about. We kind of want to build around the elite quarterback and the elite tight end if we can. Quarterback in an 8-team league, this is a garbage quarterback room. If this was a 12-team format, I'd be excited about this. But an 8-team league, Bo Nix, Jared Goff, not cutting it. Running back, Derrick Henry, Bucky Irving, will really like it, especially now that Jordan Mason looks viable as well. The majority of our value is at wide receiver, right? Where we have CeeDee Lamb, Nico Collins, Drake London, and then you're probably putting Bucky Irving into that last flex spot over Rome Odunze, dependent on how things project with Jordan Mason's role as a pass catcher. And then tight end, we're in an uncomfortable situation with Hunter Henry as a starter now, where you already said that you're going to be dropping Hunter Henry for like Jake Ferguson or Zach Ertz. So looking at what you should also do on the waiver wire, I would not recommend this to everybody. And you can see with my rankings that I have Michael Pittman Jr. ranked ahead of Zach Charbonnet. I have Pittman at 83 overall. I have Charbonnet at 94 overall. But if this is an 8-team league where Drake London's your wide receiver 3 and Rome Odunze's your wide receiver 4, where wide receiver depth is completely meaningless, you currently have Jawan Jennings, Stephon Diggs, Josh Downs all on the waiver wire. I would go ahead and I would drop Pittman for Sharp, because there's no world in which Pittman would ever project to be a top 10 wide receiver in the week. Whereas you get an injury to Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet turns into a league winner even in an 8-team format. So I would go ahead, rather have the handcuff here with your format in specifically. And then as I stalled to try to come up with some trades, which I think we may end up needing to sell George Kittle, let me send out some free questions. First one, let's send out to Gauss or Ghost. I don't know exactly how to pronounce this, but I do know how to spell it. And I just found you on the site and just sent you over that free start set. Appreciate you hanging out with us in this live stream. And then let's go ahead and find Yana Maddox and send you out some free questions as well. I cannot find you on the site. I can only find you on the site if you use code FLOCK when you signed up. If it's too late, if you already signed up and you have not used a code, you can go to your account page and you can add in code FLOCK there. We'll go ahead and we'll send this over to Luke for Birdie instead. Just sent you over that free voucher and appreciate you hanging out with us, my guy. But anyway, getting back to this for Asher, if you're 0-2, I know it's just that we've been unlucky again. We are at more people have scored points against us than anybody else in this league. I would go ahead, I would try to sell George Kittle. Like, if I'm looking at this, you're 0-2. We need points right now. Is there a world in which we can sell Rome Odunze and George Kittle and go get Brock Bowers? And go get Trey McBride? I know that's a move that we would be losing value and it would be bad in a lot of leagues, in a lot of formats. But in an 8-team league, we're fine with it. In an 8-team league, we just want to go out there and we want to trade for the elite onesie. And again, we need to start winning games. We're 0-2. You could also look at trying to send Rome Odunze and Bo Nix for Josh Allen. Maybe Drake London and Bo Nix for Allen. Drake London and Bo Nix for Lamar. Because again, 8-team league, wide receiver depth, not going to matter nearly as much. Just kind of do anything that we can to upgrade the elite onesies. And you can backfill with cheap options on the waiver wire, like wide receiver with like Jawan Jennings. But overall, you have a very good team. You've just gotten very unlucky with your opponents. Let me send you over some free questions real quick in case you have any follow-ups that you want here. But again, you do have, in my opinion, probably the best team in the league. I think you just need to sell off a wide receiver piece to get an upgrade out of onesie. And I think that you would be completely fine to sell Kittle on an 0-2 roster, even if we're doing so at a discount. Now, Jonah Vita says, which quarterback should I pick up because I had Joe Burrow? Also, who should I start at the flex? We have Kyron, Bucky, Jamar, A.J. Brown currently at wide receiver and running back. So we should have a great team. We are the 6th team in the league analyzer. It looks like you already went out there and we have Michael Penix. But I would say our flex spots probably going to be down between George Pickens, Deebo Samuel every week, depending on matchup. With this week, assuming that we have no Jaden Daniels, I would go George Pickens in the flex. But a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format, you're in a situation in which I think that you can just go through and you can afford to sell a wide receiver and get a quarterback. Like, again, Deebo Samuel, Travis Hunter, and Michael Pittman Jr. are all on our bench. Like, I would love to go through and I'd love to make a play for another QB. But to be fair, quarterbacks are completely free in your league. You have Dak, you have Goff on waivers. Like, I would cut Dallas Goedert. In my opinion, Goddard does nothing for your team. Even my team, where I have a bum-ass TJ Hawkinson, I even cut Dallas Goedert once you had the injury. But if you can cut Dallas Goedert and pick up Dak Prescott and cut Michael Penix and pick up Jared Goff and then play the matchups between Dak and Goff, I think it'll put you in a much better spot. And to be honest with you, I think it's probably going to jump you in the league analyzer a decent bit as well. Running back, Bucky, Kyron, not the best, not the worst. I'm assuming that we have an IR slot that we're able to move Aaron Jones to, which if that's the case and you can open up another roster spot, I would go ahead and I would probably pick up Tyler Algier as the premium handcuff back. Going over and looking at wide receiver, we have Troy Franklin out there on waivers. So no waiver wire pivot that we want to make there. So again, cut Dallas Goedert, cut Michael Penix, pick up the combo of Dak Goff. I think you're starting. And also, if you're spamming the chat over and over again with the same question, copying and pasting it, you're going to get muted. But if you can pick up Dak, pick up Goff, I think your quarterback position is going to be okay playing the matchups between those two options. I don't think it's going to be the most exciting thing in the world. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. So again, I would like to sell the wide receiver depth if we can. Like if you could potentially pivot off of like Deebo Samuel and Kyron Williams and a 2-for-1 deal to go get a running back upgrade that way, then that would be interesting. The difficulty with it is obviously if we're going to be looking at what we have with Kyron Williams, we're in a really tough spot if Blake Corum's going to all of a sudden get some red zone usage because Kyron Williams isn't going to catch the ball, but it is just like a 1-week sample. It's not a continued trend that we have to worry about just yet. But once we do see that continued trend, I think then at that point, people are really going to be ringing the alarm bells. They always are quick to do with Kyron Williams. So I would throw Deebo and Kyron in a 2-for-1 deal and see if you can upgrade running back that way. And if you could open up a roster spot, then at that point you could just pick up Tyler Algier for free. But I think you're probably going to be waiting on a bounce back from Kyron if you really wanted to sell him. And then also looking at what we have again with Travis Hunter, like you're not going to be able to sell Hunter for anything right now. I think you're just kind of holding for the long term. And we just clearly really need that bounce back from A.J. Brown, or if A.J. Brown keeps giving us just straight up dud performances. like through the first 2 weeks where he scored 1.8 and 7.7 points, we're going to lose this league. Because if I were you, I would be stubborn and I would keep putting A.J. Brown into my starting lineup. And I honestly think we're probably going to get a big spike from him soon. But let me send you over some free questions just in case there's anything else that you want to follow up with this. But yeah, I think your team's going to be much better after those just simple waiver wire pivots. Now let's move this over to Dumpster. It says, feel like my team is solid, just don't have that elite receiver. A.J. Brown hasn't been performing. Anybody else you think we should target? So we are the number one team in the league analyzer. Looking at our record right now, we are currently sitting at 1-1. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. I freaking love this, my guy. This is exactly what I want everybody to see, right? It is a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, and look at the amount of running backs that we are rostering in comparison to receivers. We have A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, Igbuka, DK Metcalf. In a league in which you can only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex, we really don't need much depth beyond this. So we're starting just a ridiculous amount of running backs. Guys like Trey Benson, where if you were to get a James Conner injury, all of a sudden they could turn into a league-winning option. Quarterback, we have the combo of Kyler and Fields. I like to see it. I would probably prefer Drake May over Justin Fields myself, but not something that I would say that you need to pivot to. Looking at what we have with the running back position, we have CMC and Achane as 2 locked and loaded RB1s without question. Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, RB3. Trey Benson, RB4. Mixon, Pacheco, Ray Davis. So we have plenty of running back depth. One of these guys very easily could pop. And what would be beautiful about this is say we get a pop from like Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt and Joe Mixon, right? And we're sitting in week 6. Then all of a sudden you would have the flexibility where it's like, hell, we have an extra running back. Let's go trade Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt. If people are valuing him as a low-end RB1 at the time, let's send him with Kyler Murray and go get a true elite quarterback. Or let's go send him with Tyreek Hill and go get a phenomenal wide receiver too. So I love this team. I don't know if there's anything that we're looking to do with this team. Actually, I would drop Ray Davis for Byshell Tootin. We know that there's no world in which you would ever have James Cook getting benched for Ray Davis outside of an injury, but you don't even need an injury for Tootin to take over from Travis Etienne. I really hope that's wrong. I really hope that Etienne holds the job all season, just given the fact that he's on my fantasy football team. But I would want to roster him. And also, I would be quick to pick up Matthew Golden. Even in your format where wide receiver depth's not going to matter much, you get the round 1 draft capital in a good offense. So like, I would also be quick to potentially drop one of these running backs for Golden, or realistically, you know what you could do? No, I'm not going to tell you to just roster 1 QB. I think you're right in rostering 2. But yeah, drop Davis, pick up Tootin. I would consider dropping Fields, picking up May. I would add Matthew Golden to the watch list. And then outside of that, you're in a phenomenal spot. I don't think that there's anything else that we are looking to do. But I really do appreciate you and really hope that I was able to help you out in some way with this. And again, phenomenal team, both structurally and value. We are currently sitting at the number 1 spot in the league analyzer. Let me send you over those free questions just in case there's anything that you want to follow up with. But it looks like we just hit 700 likes on the stream. So let's go ahead and let's send out some more free questions. All you got to do to get free questions will be 1, hit the like button, and 2, drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat, and we'll send some of those out for you. But let's move this over to our next question from Jay Sound. Says, is my team actually cooked, or are they just underperforming? Goff, Daniel Jones, Juwan, and Ertz all out there on the waiver wire. So get shifty. Yeah, you are far down on the league analyzer. You are also 0-2. We just had the McCarthy injury, so we have a very easy player that we can move off of here. Let's go ahead and let's take a dive into this. First thing that we can look at will be all the waiver wire pivots we want to make. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop JJ McCarthy. We're going to pick up Jared Goff. If Goff is picked up before us, we'll pick up Daniel Jones. Second thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to drop Kyle Monangai, and I'm going to be picking up Zach Ertz. I completely understand that Monangai looks like the premium handcuff to DeAndre Swift, and there's a non-0% chance that he just takes over for DeAndre Swift as the season goes on. If you wanted to instead just drop TJ Hawkinson, I'm not going to fault you for it. But for me personally, I also have TJ Hawkinson. I think maybe the quarterback change actually ends up being beneficial for him, and maybe TJ Hawkinson lives another day here, essentially. Okay. Then looking at what we have with the running back room, we have Chase Brown, Kyron as two players we can start weekly. We have DeAndre Swift as a potential flex candidate, which is very relevant for the time being, because for the time being, we have no Rashee Rice. We have Jefferson, wide receiver 1, Rice 2, Higgins 3. So yeah, I'm not going to say you're cooked, but it ain't looking good. The Vikings offense being garbage hurts Jefferson. The Burrow injury kills Higgins. And it really hurts Chase Brown. Devonta Smith isn't performing. Kyron Williams isn't. You are not looking hot right now. What you need to do on this team outside of the waiver wire pivots, I think that we probably need to go ahead and we probably need to sell Rashee Rice. If you're 0-2 and we are just decimated with injuries like this, I would package together Rashee Rice and T. Higgins and see what wide receiver upgrade we can get. For a lot of people, I think that Rice is actually an interesting trade target, because if you are going to be looking at Rice, you can say, he has top 10 upside once he comes back. He's going to increase in value every single week until he returns. But if he returns in week 7 and you're 1-5, it's over. It doesn't matter. So you need points right now. I would make those waiver wire pivots. I would sell Rice in a package with Higgins, sell Rice in a package with Kyron, just get an upgrade inside the starting lineup. Don't hold on to the long-term value, and instead get some points right now. But I really appreciate you and really hope that I was able to help you out in some way here, my guy. And again, thank you so much for being a member of the flock, and yeah, really appreciate you. But let's go ahead and let's send out some free questions. First winner that we'll have is coming from Michael Scarn. Michael Scarn, just found you on the site and just sent you over that free start set. Really appreciate you hanging out with us, my guy. And here is our next winner. This is going to be Miserly Hovercraft. Just found you and just sent you that free start set as well. Thank you so much for hanging out with us in the stream. And please, everyone, let me know whenever we hit 800 likes on the stream, and then we will go ahead and we will send out some more free questions. But let's move this over to our next one. This is going to be from Shabby Guy. It says, hey, Mason, congrats on the engagement. Thank you. And oh, yeah, let me show y'all. I didn't show y'all this in the stream yet, but I tweeted out the photographer finally got me pictures. I told y'all that we had hid the so the engagement, the then girlfriend, now fiance, had no idea what was happening, and hid the photographer in a disguise. It was really good, blah, blah, blah. But he finally sent the pictures over, and I thought this was pretty funny. I thought this was pretty clever. Captioned, already the best football season ever. And then threw in some engagement photos, and then also threw in the photos of me at the #1 spot in the Flock League, looking phenomenal. And then also Quentin Johnston having the best season ever, where he is currently wide receiver 7. So I thought that was a pretty funny post. But anyway, thank you again, my guy. Open anything, second on the waiver wire this week. Dropping Burrow, have a trade after offer for Rome, and I get Drake May and Dylan Sampson. That is horrendous. Do not do that. Do not do that. have Goff and Jones on the waiver wire, you would be way better off just picking up a quarterback for free. We are currently the 8th team in the league analyzer, and we are 0-2. So that is a kind way to say that we have a bad team. This is a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. So with this being a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format, wide receiver depth simply is not going to matter. And what we need to do is we need to completely change the structure of this roster. Shaheed, Hollywood, get rid of them. It's a 10-team league as well. The only thing that matters is upside. Get rid of Stafford. Get rid of Burrow. So we're dropping Stafford. We're dropping Burrow. We're dropping Shaheed. We're dropping Hollywood. You would think, oh, we lost Burrow. Our number 1 waiver wire claim needs to be on one of these quarterbacks with either Goff or Daniel Jones. No, it doesn't. Your number 1 waiver wire claim is going to be Jordan Mason. You pick up Jordan Mason, and this could be a league-winning option from the waiver wire for you right now with Aaron Jones going to the IR. So I would drop Hollywood, drop Shaheed, drop Stafford, drop Burrow, and here are the order of importance for your waiver wire claims. Jordan Mason 1. Jared Goff 2, Daniel Jones 3, Cam Scatterbo 4, Trey Benson 5, Joe Mixon 6. I'm going to assume that we probably get 4 out of those 6, but honestly, let's expand it to 7 Rachaad White, 8 Tyler Algier. You would rather optimize for these running backs like Trey Benson that are an injury away from potentially turning into a league winner, as opposed to like Shaheed or Hollywood Brown, because in a 10-team league with only 2 wide receivers and 1 flex, those are players that you're simply just never putting into the starting lineup. And then I would like it if we could have the combination of both Jared Goff and Daniel Jones on our team. And then we could hopefully go through and just play the matchups with these guys going into the future. Then looking at what we have at running back with Taylor, Kyron, like it's not a great running back room, but when you add the waiver wire pieces to it, like if you can get Jordan Mason, then all of a sudden it is great. Is there anything else to discuss? Like, especially if you can add Cam Scatterbo. I don't want to make a trade. Like, if you're making a trade, you're like, if you wanted to sell Rome, I'm fine with it. You just need a way higher asking price. Like, if you can sell Rome for Jalen Hurts, go for it. If you can sell Rome for Jaden Daniels, go for it. But hell no, we're not looking at like Drake May for him. And Dylan Sampson's not even worth a roster spot. Dylan Sampson would be my 7th pickup off the waiver wire on this team. So yeah, I think honestly you're going to be fine. Drop the 2 receivers, drop the 2 quarterbacks, fill up with higher upside QBs, fill up with high upside running backs, and that'll put you in a much better spot. And if you wanted to try to sell like Rome and Kelsey, if you could get to Bowers, if you can get to McBride, we'll go for it. But outside of that, I think you're probably leaving this as is. But I really appreciate you. Let me send you over some of these free questions as well in case you have any follow-ups. But I think your team's going to be much better after just making those simple waiver wire moves. But we will get to our next team, and it looks like we just hit 800 likes on the stream. So we'll go ahead and we'll send out some more free questions as well. Again, we send out a ton of free questions every single live stream to qualify. All you got to do is hit the like button and drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chats. But let's look at this for BT Kavanaugh. It says, looking to make a running back upgrade, not much consistency and upside. And I'm also thinking of selling Jefferson. Any trade ideas or pivots? Thanks, Mason. Thank you, my guy. So we are Jalen at Hurts. We are currently the 3rd team in the league analyzer. We are 1-1. I'll say if you're looking at selling Jefferson, I don't know how many people are going to be that interested. But before we dive into your team, let's go ahead and let's send out some of these free questions for people in the chats. Okay. Let's find some winners. We got Lingangster. Let's see if I can find you. Lee Angster. Just found you, my guy, and just sent you over that free start sit. Again, thank you so much for hanging out with us in this live stream. We have this for the Naughty Frank. Just found you and just sent you over a free start sit as well. Again, thank you so much for hanging out with us in this stream. All right, so let's go ahead and let's dive back into this for BT. So this is a 1 quarterback, 8 team league. So you would say that, oh, okay, depth is completely meaningless. Depth doesn't matter at all. However, it's a start 9 format. So you can actually say that depth is somewhat relevant here in a league like this. At least skill positional depth. But options on the waiver wire are still going to be very compelling. Like we can go through and we can skim waivers right now. And I can see that we have Cam Skadbu and Isaiah Pacheco both out there. And Ramondre Stevenson out there. So my first thing that we do is we drop Dylan Sampson for Scat. If Aaron Jones is in an IR slot for us, we're going to hold on to him, of course. However, we have Kittle and Ayuk on the IR already. So there's a good shot that we're out of injured reserve spots. And Aaron Jones would actually need to be on your bench. And if that's the case, I would probably drop Aaron Jones for Isaiah Pacheco. I would drop Caleb Johnson for Ramondre Stevenson. And yeah, we would just churn the bottom of the running back room with the options that we currently have on waivers. Going over looking at wide receivers and tight ends, I would also drop Hunter Henry for your call between Kincaid or Zach Ertz. Kind of up to you there. But I definitely think that after what we saw from Henry this past week, you'd prefer having one of the tight ends. So what else could we possibly say with this? So it's a start 9 format, right? So we're going to be starting a tight end, 1 quarterback. And then so we need 7 running backs and receivers weekly. We have Kyron, then like Puka, Jefferson, Brian Thomas, Sutton. Like the depth here isn't incredible. Like again, let me triple check. We're 1-1, right? Yeah, we're 1-1. So we have the ability to wait for the long term to hopefully get one of these additional running back breakouts like Amari and Hampton. I like your team a lot. For your league settings where the depth matters, if you wanted to sell Jefferson, sure. Like if you could pivot from Jefferson to Taylor, if you could pivot from Jefferson to Henry, if you could pivot from Jefferson to CMC, Bijan, Gibbs, Barkley, I'll go ahead and I'll do it. But I just don't know if anybody's trading for Justin Jefferson with how bad the Vikings offense has looked, given... And also the fact that you have the J.J. McCarthy injury, which means that McCarthy's probably not going to have the development in the long term either. So you can go for a Jefferson trade. But I think it's just frustrating to have the slow start from the 2 receivers and you just got to roll with the punches here. If you could go to the team that has Joe Burrow, maybe we can send them Justin Herbert and try to get an upgrade at running back that way. But ultimately, if we make those pivots with the waiver wire, I think that you're going to have so many shots at running backs with upside that eventually a couple of these guys are going to hit and you're going to be in a completely fine situation. So I'm leaving this team primarily as is when it comes to, I mean, a lot of y'all's teams that I'm looking at this point, I really like, and obviously I want to be making waiver wire adjustments and changing how we construct the bench, but there aren't many teams that I'm looking at anymore that I'm like, oh yeah, this is a garbage construction. We need to make trades. Now, I think you're in a fine spot. Obviously, I wish I had a time machine to go back in time and tell you, let's go through and let's sell Justin Jefferson. But again, the price point's probably fallen so far that you can go out there and throw him on the trade block. I just think you're going to be disappointed in what the reality is that you get. So let's move this over to our next one. This is going to be from Blackfire 2K20. Says, before week 1, I was ranked 2nd or 3rd on the analyzer, but now we've dropped to 9th or 10th. So what have we had happen? We had the Brock Purdy injury. We had Caleb Johnson turn into a pumpkin. We had the Burrow injury hurt T. Higgins. And then Trevion fell flat and hasn't broken out. And we are also 0-2 as well. Feel like we got to make changes. Any trades I should make. Lost this week by 3 points. First time playing, hoping to bounce back this week. Injuries have been brutal. Thanks, Mason. I appreciate you, my guy. It's a 10-team league, but depth matters a decent bit. The reason is this is going to be a start 9 format. So start 9 format, if we were moving quarterback and tight end, you're starting a total of 7 running backs and wide receivers combined, right? So it's not like it's as simple as saying, let's go through and let's sell a wide receiver for a QB. So I actually like the fact that you didn't overly invest into quarterback or tight end here. Okay. Looking at what we have. At quarterback, I think Purdy, assuming that he's actually on your roster and not on your IR, is going to be an easy drop for us for either Jared Goff or Daniel Jones. Because what we've seen with these 3 quarterbacks so far this season, I think if we're looking at Bo Nix, Goff, and DJ, realistically, you can find yourself in a spot in which you could play the matchups with these quarterbacks. Going over and looking at what we have at running back, running back's the weakest position with this team by far. Thank God Jordan Mason comes through with the Aaron Jones injury. We have Trevion, Pollard, Jordan Mason, Judkins, Caleb, Braylon Allen, Dylan Sampson. So here's the situation with your team. You're 0-2. You need a win right now. Trevion, Caleb Johnson, and maybe even Judkins look like they're not going to be anything anytime soon. Funny enough, Judkins looks like he has the best shot at it. So you, in theory, should want to go through and we should want to sell these rookie running backs. But the reality of it is nobody's going to be buying Trevion Henderson. Nobody's going to be buying Caleb. Like Caleb Johnson, someone that we should cut, essentially. Going over and looking at what we have at running backs off the waiver wire. Hell, I'd rather have Ray Davis over Dylan Sampson at this point. Dylan Sampson's not startable, and he won't be anytime soon. You go through the scenarios in which Quinshon Judkins gets injured. Then all of a sudden, Dylan Sampson split in the backfield with Jerome Ford. He's still maybe not even startable in a garbage offense. Whereas if you get a James Cook injury, then Ray Davis has the backfield in Buffalo, much more valuable job. So I'd rather have Ray Davis than Dylan Sampson. Make that swap. Wide receiver, I'd consider dropping Rashad Bateman for Troy Franklin. Harold Fannon's probably too good to be out there on waivers, but at the same time, I mean, I'm not really ever starting him over Sam Laporta. So waiver wire wise, drop Purdy, pick up Goff or DJ. Drop Dylan Sampson, pick up Ray Davis. If you could sell Trevion and like Judkins in a 2-for-1 deal to go get a running back like James Conner that's going to help us out right now, let's go for it. But it's going to be much easier said than done, considering nobody wants these rookie running backs right now. So I would send those offers out, try to get some old crusty veterans from 2-0 teams and send them over rookies if they're willing to have them. But outside of that, the main thing that we're going to be doing is just making the pivots with the waivers. And let's move this. Let me make sure I sent you over those free questions. Yeah, I'll send you over some free questions in case you want to follow up anything with this team, my guy. Okay. And let's move this over to our next question. This one's going to be coming out from Loful. Says, thanks for the help. 14-team league. Superflex Deep League was going to drop Higgins, Trey, AR for Johnson, Browning, Franklin on waivers. Not sure if I should trade for a lesser quarterback and upgrade somewhere else. Want to package Terry and Connor for sure. You know what I need to do real quick is I need to... update the rankings on the site to include Jake Browning, because realistically, like I go through and I go, oh, it doesn't matter for anyone. But then you think like, oh, actually no, Superflex leagues, it does matter. So let me go ahead and add him in the rankings, because he is an actual interesting quarterback when it comes to Superflex, just given the fact that you do have the combo of Chase and Higgins that you can play with. Like I'd probably put him ahead of McCarthy at this point. We need to add, and I can't even add Wentz to the player pool. Looks like the devs deleted him. I need to message him and say like, hey, let's get this guy back in. But anyway, let's look at this. Not sure if I should trade for a lesser quarterback and upgrade elsewhere. Want to package Terry Connor for sure. My week 8 and 12 buys will hurt as well. Do not worry about your bye weeks. So here's the thing. 14-team Superflex league, quarterback is going to be extremely difficult to come by. You just do the simple math of it, and you are going to have every team trying to roster 3 starting QBs. But there are only a total of 32 in the league. So everybody's going to get 2, or everybody's going to try to get 2. And then there are only like 6 left over. So there is going to be a premium placed on quarterbacks in a 14-team league. There should be a premium placed on quarterback as well, because it's a start 8 league. So if quarterbacks are making up 25% of our starting lineup output weekly, and on top of that, we know that they're just naturally going to score more than other positions, the points that they're putting out rather than just the requirements are a hell of a lot higher than that. So going through and let's look at everything. First, with quarterbacks, we just added them to the waiver wire, but Browning, number 1 add. If this is a fab bidding scenario, you hammer the waiver wire for him. You blow a ton of fab. I'm talking 50% of whatever budget that you have left. Maybe even higher here. Let's look at what else is on waivers. Yeah, Bigsby's the best running back. Troy Franklin's the best wide receiver. So yeah, we're going to be dropping Trey Harris for Troy Franklin. And then I wouldn't roster 3 tight ends if you have Bowers. Like, my thing is I would love to try to trade Harold Fannin. Is there a world in which we can send Fannin to a team that needs some help at tight end and just get a running back in return? I don't think you need to trade for a quarterback. If you go aggressive after Jake Browning, I think quarterback you're going to be fine with Daniels, Bo Nix, and Browning through the rest of the year in a 14-team Superflex. But like realistically, we're never starting Harold Fannin here over like Bowers. Wide receivers garbage, running backs garbage. We don't want to be rostering freaking 3 tight ends. Zach Ertz is on the waiver wire for free. So I would go through and I would try to send Harold Fannin to a team that needs a tight end. This team has Isaiah Likely currently as their tight end. I'm offering them a Harold Fannin for J.K. Dobbins. Let's go through and you can actually sort with the league analyzer the teams that are worst at tight end. This team's not rostering a tight end. This team's not rostering a tight end. This team's not. Okay, so here's the situation. It looks like this is a league where you don't need to start a tight end. If that tight end spot's actually like a wide receiver / tight end, I like your team a hell of a lot less. There's a lot of value that you get is sitting here having this type of tight end room. Is having Bowers, Fannin, and Evan Ingram all together. So I'm going to still go out there. I'm still going to offer Fannin for players like J.K. Dobbins. Like going through and just showing like how I'd value him at wide receiver. I would offer Fannin for Pittman. I would offer him for Quentin Johnston. I would offer him for Keenan Allen. I would offer him for Stephon Diggs. Hell, if you don't have to play a tight end, I would offer him for Darnell Mooney. Like I would love to pivot off of Fannin and go and get a wide receiver or a running back depth piece kind of regardless. And then I completely agree with your waiver wire assessment. We need to go out there and we need to aggressively target Browning. And then looking at what we could do outside of that, again, we are cutting Trey Harris, picking up Troy Franklin, trading a tight end if we can convince somebody to get one from us. but you cannot afford to upgrade quarterback with a trade. I know you were mentioning going out there and trading for a better QB. It sucks to say this. I know quarterback is so important in your league, but your running back and your wide receiver room, they're so bad that there's no world in which you can afford a quarterback upgrade. So then you're kind of working with this. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way. Let me send you over some free vouchers just in case you have anything that you want to follow up with for us. Okay. And I know that we've had 1,000 people. Can somebody in the chat please explain this to people when they come in and ask this? Mark and everybody else in the chat that's wondering why they can't send questions right now. We are too backed up on questions. From now on, we are going to have questions open for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then we are going to close them so we can answer all the questions that were submitted during that window. And then we'll open them back up once we can get through all of those. But just to make sure it's manageable, because if I keep questions on for 2 hours, then we are going to have enough questions sent in that I wouldn't be able to answer them in 12 hours. And I can't stream for the next 12 hours. I'm sorry. Okay. Now, it looks like we did hit 900 likes on the stream, though. So we will send out some more free vouchers for y'all to get questions in when we turn them back on. So all you got to do is drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat and drop a like on this live stream. And we'd be happy to go through and send out some more free questions for y'all. And one thing that we are going to do as well that the devs on the site have been working on over the weekend, and this should be done. They said it was going to be done today. I'm kind of assuming that means it's done tomorrow. But they're going to have an option where I can because right now my only options are turn off questions or turn on questions. But we are eventually going to have a third option that I can go turn off questions or turn on questions, or I can turn off the ability to purchase them, but on the ability where if you have a voucher, you can submit one regardless. So I could say hey, for the next, so whenever I had questions turned off right now, it's hey, if you have a voucher, you can send one in still. And that way it can maybe manage and make it a little bit slower, the questions that we get inundated with. Okay. Let's move this over. We got your neighbors, Jennings. But yeah, I'm excited for whenever we're able to do that, where it's hey, you can, it's so that it's not just all or nothing, essentially. Because the free questions I'm sending out right now in the chat, it's hey, you can't even ask these right now, which I'd rather you be able to ask them immediately. Because long term, to be honest with y'all, the goal for these streams, again, this is something that I need to think about. And I've been thinking about it a lot more. Because y'all know I have committed to live streaming and answering fantasy football questions every single day. And I haven't missed a day during the season in 4 years answering these questions. Even when we've lost our voice, even when I've gotten deathly ill, we've been here answering them. But long term, I can't do it forever, right? I can't be 70 years old live streaming every single day answering questions. So what we'll probably eventually do is find a way to transition where I'm not live as long. And we are answering more questions. It's hey, we're maybe we're going to be live for an hour and a half every night instead of 4 or 5 hours. But the majority of the questions that we're answering are just vouchers. People aren't actually buying them. It's hey, if you're a member of the site, cool, you'll get free questions. Or if you hang out in the chat a lot, find a way to reward people in the chat and send them free questions like how we've been doing right now, where I don't exactly want it to be you can just go onto the site and pay $70, $80 for a team review. I'd rather that not be the case. I'd rather it be I'm live less and the questions that we answer are free or for the members of the site, if that makes sense. Okay. Now let's move this over to our next one. Let me make sure that we sent that over. Okay, perfect. We sent you those free questions. Okay. Now let's move this over. Marion says, drafted super well in the first 5 rounds. Traded Wilson and Ramondre for London. Phenomenal. Worried about RB2 in the flex until Rice is back. Don't know if I should stay or put somebody else for an RB2 or startable receiver. Waiting every week for better Rice value as well. So we're currently sitting 1-1. We are the number 1 team in the league analyzer. It's a league in which, does it say a start 8 format? Mario, are you in the chat right now? Please let me know if you're in the chat. And yeah, we sent out those free questions already to the people in the chat. Okay. Travis, if you got the season pass, you should have access to all the rankings on the website, so you can look it up there, my friend. But I'm interested to know because this says it's a start 6 format. I'm assuming it's not actually a start 6 league. But here, if it was, and we had the elite quarterback and the elite tight end, that would be, White Goodman says yes right here. Can you let me know what are your starting lineup requirements? Because if this is actually a start 6 league, you are in a phenomenal spot. I know running back 2 is garbage, but we have Lamb, London, Taylor as our cornerstone pieces with Bowers, Jalen Hurts. If we were to redraft today, I would say that all 3 of these players would go inside the first 3 rounds, and we have a total of 5 of them on our roster. Now, the depth is not the best beyond that, of course, but hopefully we can just make some simple waiver wire moves to look at this. Why I know this is a redraft league, but I'm just saying, like, how many wide receivers do you start? How many running backs do you start? Et cetera, et cetera. But looking at what we have with waiver wire pivots, maybe I'm an idiot here, but I do think that I would still rather have Caleb Johnson over DJ Giddens. Like, while it's not likely, I still think that there is a higher probability that Caleb Johnson takes over as the starting running back over Jalen Warren, as opposed to DJ Giddens taking over as the starting running back for Jonathan Taylor. Okay, White says 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, and a flex. Okay, good to know. So yeah, I would drop DJ Giddens for Caleb Johnson. Wide receiver, we have Lamb, London. Running back, yeah, our depth is just garbage, especially with the Aaron Jones injury. Dear God, this is going to be tough. If you were 0-2, I'd be panicking and I would sell Rice for a startable receiver, a startable running back. Because right now in your starting lineup, we have like Byshell Tootin and Tyrone Tracy. That is actually, no, hell, I start Cedric Tillman over them. You know what I'm actually doing? F it. We're not picking up Caleb Johnson. We're not looking for a long-term wide receiver start. We need to pick up somebody that we can start right now. I would drop DJ Giddens and I would pick up Troy Franklin. Like, there's a world in which you actually put Troy Franklin in your starting lineup, even if this is a shallower format, funny enough, just given the Rice injury and the potential outlook that you have with Franklin in the Broncos offense in comparison to Tillman with the Browns. So I would drop DJ Giddens and I would pick up Franklin. And then if we could find a team that has like an okay running back start that we can put in at RB2, that they would maybe never consider actually getting into their lineup, but for us would help. Can we find one of those cheapo running backs? There just aren't that many around. Like, this team went out there and they traded for Ramondre Stevenson. Funny enough, like, Ramondre is somebody that we actually could have used, but again, your price that you sold him at. It's just too good not to pass up on. I would offer something for Nick Chubb. I would go like, if you look at my rankings, I have Byshell Tootin and Nick Chubb kind of back to back. I have Tootin one spot ahead of him because I think Tootin has way more upside in terms of what we are looking at long term. But if we're looking at what we have right now, like Nick Chubb starts for us and it improves our starting lineup, even if it's a cap ceiling. Like we have other running backs that can come through in the long term. We have Rashee Rice coming through in the long term. So I would offer like Aaron Jones for Nick Chubb. I'd offer Tootin for Nick Chubb. I would offer Tracy. I would offer Algier. I would just try to pick up Nick Chubb on the cheap if possible. And again, we're not paying a ton for him. We are trying to just get one of these running backs that we can start at a dirt cheap price. Looking at other running backs that maybe fit that mold. There aren't really any other teams with just the expendable running back that's startable in the short term. If you wanted to approach this team for like Jordan Mason, I mean, I would love to get Jordan Mason on your team, but I just don't see the trade that could make it happen. Maybe if you wanted a down tier from like Bowers to Tyler Warren, if you wanted a down tier from like Bowers to Tyler Warren, my initial offer would be like, hey, I'll send you Bowers, give me back Warren and ETN. And then all of a sudden we could have that ETN play at RB2. Then what's the alternative? I think you just got to, if we're making a trade here, it's for a running back 2 and it's a cheap one. You can down tier at tight end from like Bowers to Tyler Warren to pick up Jordan Mason. You can try to swap a long-term running back piece like Aaron Jones for a short-term one like Nick Chubb. But I think that's what you're trying to do. Outside of that, I absolutely love your team with how it currently is situated, my guy. I think you should be in a good spot long-term. Let me send you over some of those free questions as well. But really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. But let's go ahead. Let's go to our next question. Let me refresh this, see how many more questions that we have to answer. And I actually kind of need to log out and log back in anyway. So I will stall by reminding y'all that I am live streaming every single day answering fantasy football questions for hours and hours and hours. Probably be live for about 4 or 5 hours today, 4 or 5 hours tomorrow, etc., etc., etc. I'm not going to do this until I'm 70. No promises when we're in the year 2030 that I'm going to live stream every day answering questions. But until then, y'all got me every night here. So if you haven't done so already, definitely go down there and subscribe to the channel. If you hit the bell next to the subscribe button, YouTube will tell you when we go live. And then you can come through at the very beginning of these streams when we do have those questions open. But Jersey will be the next team that we are taking a peek at. It says sitting at 2-0, but I'm very concerned about my running backs long term. It's a 12-team full PPR with 2 keepers. We kept Allen and Chase. Is it too early to pull the trigger on Lamb trade for a top running back in the middle of the pack receiver? Okay. We are the number 2 team in the league analyzer. If Brock Purdy is actually on your bench, I would probably go through and I would actually drop Purdy for Jared Goff. But if Purdy's on your IR, then obviously leave it as is. But Josh Allen has the week 7 bye. It's not even a guarantee that Purdy comes back by week 7. Going over and looking at what we have at running back, we have James Conner, RJ Harvey, Dylan Sampson, and Tank Bigsby. So for me, I think that we've already seen what the true ceiling is going to be for somebody like Tyler Algier. Whereas with Bigsby, it's more so a projection. So I would go ahead and I would cut Tank Bigsby and I would pick up Algier from the waiver wire. Going over to receiver, I'm assuming that Jaden Reed's on the IR. So we're not going to mess with him. But I would drop Jaden Higgins. He only had 1 target this past week, and Christian Kirk's now coming back. I would drop Jaden Higgins for Cooper Kupp, where Kupp showed some signs of life. And then going over and looking at tight end, we're in a completely fine spot. So overall, this team is the worst at running back specifically. I would also probably cut Dylan Sampson for Najee Harris. Like, I don't see what the ceiling is for Dylan Sampson at this point. And it looks like we just hit 1,000 likes on the stream. So we'll go ahead and we'll send out some more of those free start sit questions in the chat. All you got to do to qualify for them is hit the like button, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and then hit the bell next to the subscribe button if you want to get notified when we're live so you can send those questions in. But drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat so we can go ahead and send some of those questions out. Okay. So looking at like what we would want to do here is clearly upgrade running back, but the way to go about this is much easier said than done. Like here's my initial thing. Is there somebody that's convinced themselves and is delusional enough to not think that this Joe Burrow injury significantly hurts Jamar? My initial gut reaction is I'm offering Jamar for every elite running back. I'm going to go to the Bijan owner. Hey, I'll give you Jamar for him. Barkley, Gibbs, McCaffrey, Henry, even maybe Jonathan Taylor. Because you send Jamar Chase for Jahmyr Gibbs, and we slide James Conner down to RB2, RJ Harvey down to RB3, we're perfectly fine. We're chilling. And then we make those small waiver wire pivots that we discussed. If we're looking at the Lamb trade, again, I just think that Lamb's in a different tier at this point. That would kind of be the backup option. But again, if you wanted to just wait a little bit of time and get confirmation that you were going to have no RJ Harvey breakout this next week or no expanded role, like J.K. Dobbins did fall with his snap rate from week 1 to week 2. Then at that point, sure, go out there and panic sell CeeDee Lamb. But you have a little bit of flexibility where you don't need to do that right now because you are 2-0. So being 2-0 puts you in a much better spot. But I really appreciate you. Let me send you over some free questions to follow up with just in case you have anything else that you want us to take a look at. But let me go through and let's send out some of those free questions for people in the chat. We got Bowl Lever. Let me send you over a free start sit. Appreciate you hanging out with us in the stream, my guy. Just sit you out that free start sit. And we got Amp06. I cannot find you. I don't know if you used code FLOCK when you signed up to the site. If you didn't, you can add it to your account page, but that's the only way that I can find you on the site. Let's see if we can find D Treats. D Treats, appreciate you. Just found you and just sent you over that free start set. Okay. Now, let's see our next question here. This next one coming out from Tristan Dack. So I just traded Marv Pollard plus Happen Johnson. I'm assuming that's Caleb Johnson for Tetton Hampton. Great deal. I don't know what to do with my team because no matter how good I feel to do trades, I always just end up getting skewed. Tootin is glitch. He's not on my team. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's check this out. We're the number 1 team in the league analyzer. It's a league in which you can start up to 4 wide receivers weekly. So the wide receiver depth matters. What I really like to see is the fact that Hampton and Quinshon Judkins are both on our bench. So obviously we're not needing the production here from these guys in the short term, but having the long-term upside of it feels really good. We have Justin Herbert and Drake May, both at quarterback, that we can play the matchups with going into the future. Feel really good about that combo of QBs. Running back, Jahmyr Gibbs, Kyron Williams, Amari Hampton. Wide receiver, Tet, Sutton, Rice, Pickens, and Olave. So we have no Rice. So realistically, we need Tet, Sutton, Pickens, and Olave to start right now. And then tight end, we have the number one tight end room in the league by far with the combo of Bowers and Kraft. So the very easy thing to say is, oh, okay, well, let's go trade Kraft. Let's go trade Bowers. Let's sell one of the tight ends. And I mean, I think that you can do this in a couple different ways. The first thing that I would do is, and I know this is most likely not going to get it done, but we're going to try anyway. I'm going to go offer Tucker Kraft and Justin Herbert to go get to an elite QB. Or first, let's just see what the teams have that have garbage tight ends. This team has David Njoku, and that's it. Could we send them Brock Bowers and Tet to get to Justin Jefferson? I would offer that. This team has Jake Ferguson as their only tight ends. Can we send them the combination of Tucker Kraft and Tet to get to Nico Collins? Tucker Kraft and Amari Hampton to get to Ashton Genty? This team's tight end room is Evan Ingram, Britton Strange. Can we send them the combination of Brock Bowers and Tet to get to Puka Nacua? Can we send them Tucker Kraft and Amari Hampton to get to Bucky Irving? This team is Hawkinson and Jonnu Smith. Can we send them Brock Bowers and Kyron Williams to get to Kamara? Can we send them Tucker Kraft and Amari Hampton to get to Kamara? I'm sorry. The initial one, Kyron and Bowers, would be to get to Barkley. The other one would be to get to Kamara. And this team here at the very bottom is Zach Ertz and Mark Andrews. Could we send them Bowers and George Pickens and get to Drake London? Like that's the very clear move that you make with this team is we're just going to go through and we're just going to see if we can sell one of those tight ends. I would also consider picking up Blake Corum over Kareem Hunt, their running back. Realistically, I don't know what the upside is for Hunt. I drafted him in a bunch of underdog best ball drafts, and I'm really hoping that he comes through for us in a big time way and gives us some usable weeks. But I don't know if I could ever put Kareem Hunt inside my top 10 RBs in my rankings, even if you were to get an injury to Pacheco. But you could reasonably see Blake Corum getting there if you had an injury to Kyron Williams. But I think that's all I got for you. Let me send you out some of those free questions. I really appreciate you hanging out with us and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. And again, just a reminder for everybody in the chat, I know that y'all cannot send in questions right now, but we are just backed up with them. I'm having to go through and catch up. Once we are caught up, I will be turning those questions back on. But if they were just on at all times, we would just fall too far behind. Now, X-Man, I know you're always in the chat, and I always am happy to see this. This is my waiver wires low-key This is a friends league, and they're not very active, but any trade suggestions? I play Daddy this week, and kind of scared. I was thinking about trading Kraft and Marr for a top player, maybe Bo Nix this week as a top quarterback. Any suggestions are appreciated. Thanks, and let's go Flock. Really appreciate you. And thank God, if you're saying your league mates don't know what they're doing and you're in this live stream every night, I would have been disappointed if you were not near the top of the league with the league analyzer. We are currently sitting here at the number one spot, and at the same time, we are 2-0 as well. So we're in a very comfortable position. And yeah, I mean, obviously, the first thing that we see with this team is we are sitting with the combination of Tyler Warren and Tucker Kraft. And let me address this real quick. Michael says, make them more expensive, supply and demand. No, question mark. Here's the thing. Me turning off questions on the live stream and telling people, I'm sorry, there's only so much time of the day. I'm going to answer as many as I possibly can. But we're not going to be able to have them on at all times. Come out to the beginning of the stream and you can get your questions in. As you can tell with the people in the chat, that's pissing a lot of people off. But if I just raise the prices on everything so we could have questions on at all times and still answer the same amount of questions, that would piss people off 10 times more. So I would say that I am in kind of I'm not saying boo-hoo me, blah, blah, blah. Of course I'm not. But kind of a lose-lose situation because I turn off questions and try to answer as many questions as I can and give away free questions to people in the stream. And I'm a bad guy. But if we were to do the supply and demand thing, we were to double the prices on them, I would be an evil guy. So, trying my best here. But anyway, looking at this, it's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. Clearly the play is we sell one of the tight ends, right? Looking at the options on waivers, like realistically, your waiver wire is not that compelling anywhere. I guess quarterback's decent. You got Dak and got Daniel Jones. But if we have Bo Nix and Drake May at QB, like it's not like we are rushing out there to go pick up any of the other quarterbacks on waivers. And you are effectively just playing the matchups between these guys. Looking at what we have at running back, Gibbs, Etienne, Hubbard, Ja'Cory Cross-Kamara, RJ Harvey's our running back 5. So like we're not stressing whatsoever of what the RJ Harvey role looks like. And instead we are just chilling and hoping that we get the upside for him later in the year. Looking at receiver, London, Ladd, Marv, this is a phenomenal team. I would probably cut Kayshon Boutte at this point. I mean, I understand the man had the touchdown. It was a highlight grab, but ultimately had 1 target this past week. And that's with Diggs operating on a snap count, right? So if Kayshon Boutte's not viable at the moment, I don't see when he will be. So I would cut him in favor of either Cedric Tillman or Troy Franklin. And then let's go through and let's just look at some of the teams that are garbage at tight end and see if we can make a trade with them. Because what's funny is this team is McBride and Bowers, right? So if that team is McBride and Bowers, there should be some teams in your league with horrible tight ends. This team is Evan Ingram, and that's it. I'm going to go through and I'm going to offer Tucker Kraft and Ladd McConkey for Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'll offer Tyler Warren and Drake London for Puka Nacua. We could offer Tucker Kraft and Travis Etienne for Devon Achane. Let's go over and let's find the next to worst team at tight end. This team has David Njoku. I'm going to offer them the combo of Tyler Warren and Travis Etienne for CMC. Offer them the combo of Tucker Kraft and Marvin Harrison for Brian Thomas. Next team here is TJ Hawkinson. I'm going to offer them Tyler Warren and Travis Etienne for Barkley. I'm going to offer them the combination of Tyler Warren and Bo Nix for Lamar Jackson. And obviously, I understand the majority of these offers are going to get rejected. We just need one to get accepted. And this team is Kyle Pitts as their tight end. I'm going to offer them the combo of Tucker Kraft and Ladd McConkey for Justin Jefferson. Tucker Kraft and Marvin Harrison for A.J. Brown. Actually, I don't even know if we would do that. I'll offer them Tucker Kraft and Travis Etienne for Bucky Irving. Right? So you're just going to go out there and you're just going to spam those tight end offers and hope that one of them gets accepted. But overall, great team. We're 2-0. We're dominating this league. The waiver wire, yeah, doesn't have much on it. Seems like our league mates at least know something here. And let me send you over those free questions just in case you wanted to follow up with anything here, my guy. Okay. Now, let's move this over to our next question. This is going to come out from Gunna Boy. It says, starting 0-2 but staying patient. I was going to go for Troy Franklin, but 9th on the waiver wire, and we are dropping Bateman. Okay, so it was worthy of a shot. We are currently 2nd in the league analyzer. This is a 12-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. We are 0-2, though. We have scored 250 points, so we're kind of right here in the middle of points scored. We are tied for 6th place with points scored, but we have the 2nd to most points scored against us in this league. So we've just either gotten unlucky or we've played bad defense, depending on how you want to frame it. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. So quarterback's going to make up a high percentage of our starting lineup output weekly, as well as tight end. And looking at QB1, Baker Mayfield, this is in the range of QBs where we can afford to roster 2 quarterbacks, especially looking at the waiver wire, where the waiver wire is not super compelling at really any of these positions. Looking at what we have at running back, we have JT RB1, HN RB2, Chubb, White, Tracy as quality depth. So overall, really like the running back room. Going over to receiver, we have Lamb, Worthy, Addison, Golden, Shakir, Bateman, Dobbs. This is your issue, right? So it's completely fine for a team that's 2-0 to be sitting here with Worthy, Addison, Golden, like 3 of these players that are long-term options, but not really providing anything in the short term. It's fine to load up with those high upside long-term pieces if you're 2-0. But when you're 0-2, you can't afford to think for the long term. You need to be thinking, how can I get points in my starting lineup right now? So for me, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to throw Xavier Worthy on my trade block. I'm going to throw Jordan Addison out there on my trade block. I'm going to go try to get wide receivers that are producing like Keenan Allen. Just so we can throw wide receiver 2 into the starting lineup. Because who are you putting at wide receiver 2 this week? Shakir? But the issue with this is, just understandably so, nobody's trading for Worthy right now. Nobody's trading for Addison right now. So we're going to go through and we're going to try to make that move, but it's just much, much easier said than done. Then going over and looking at tight end, I have TJ Hawkinson as well. I'm just completely done with the dude. I would have loved to pick up Juwan Johnson myself. Is there any trade? Like the only thing that you could reasonably do with this is go through and try to just pivot from one of those depth wide receivers that isn't producing, that's either a rookie, suspended, or injured. And just get a depth piece right now of somebody that we can't start. Even if they have a lower overall ceiling. I wish I had more for you, but again, I think that you are a good team. It's just unfortunate that so much of your wide receiver depth is centered around the long term, not the short term. And we're 0-2, so we really need to figure out how to win in the short term. But let me send you over some free questions just in case there's anything that you want to follow up with. So let's move this over to our next one. This is going to be a hole in one. Says, should be 1-1, but benched Kraft last week. Wondering if I should make an attempt for any trades this week or wait to see. So we are going to have to look on the other screen real quick to see what the actual team name is of this. Give me 1 second to do this, ladies and gentlemen. And as I do, I will stall by reminding you, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We are live streaming every single day, answering as many fantasy football questions as I possibly can. And a lot of the ones that we answer are free as well. So it is, if you ain't first, you're last. Here's the team. We are currently 0-2. We've scored 213 points. So we're second to last in points scored. We're dead in the middle in points against. But yeah, we are needing to go through and we are needing to score points sooner rather than later. It's a league in which the depth does matter. It's a start 8 format. So the wide receiver depth is important here. We have the elite quarterback with Jalen Hurts. Happy to see it. I think Hurts is going to get better as time goes on. I think that we will eventually see him be forced to drop back, even if it hasn't happened so far this year. Then running back, we have the combination of Jahmyr Gibbs and Ashton Jeanty. So Jeanty as an RB1 looks very concerning. But if Jeanty's going to be our running back 2 at this point, phenomenal. Ja'Cory Cross-Camara at RB3 and We have Jordan Mason as a player that we can just jam into the flex spot every single week over the next month with no Aaron Jones, which that's going to help a ton for a team that's 0-2. A team that's 0-2, your exact kind of player that you want is Jordan Mason, where we can go, yeah, maybe he has a shelf life. Maybe we're not expecting him to be an RB1 through the rest of the year, but at least for right now, we know that we're good to go. Then looking at what we have at wide receiver, we have Ladd McConkey, wide receiver 1, J-Mo, wide receiver 2, Ricky Pearsall, DJ Moore falling flat, and then tight end, we have Tucker Kraft. So this is a really strong team. I really like your team, to be honest. Going over and looking at what we have on the waiver wire, I would cut Hunter Henry. You're never playing him over Kraft, especially with the Jaden Reed injury. I would cut Henry, pick up Algier. And then outside of that, if we were looking to make a trade, if you wanted to just try to get some points into the starting lineup right now to avoid falling to 0-3, because again, falling to 0-3 would be just absolutely detrimental to our hopes of making the playoffs, is I would go through and I would maybe try to sell Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, a running back that has a lot of long-term upside and especially looks really exciting post-Austin Eckler injury. And I would try to send Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt and Jamison Williams to get to the best wide receiver 2 you possibly can. Try to send Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt and DJ Moore, Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt and Ricky Pearsall. Just essentially try to make that sell where you get a better wide receiver 2. You have Jordan Mason to put in the starting lineup here anyway. And Jordan Mason would be your running back 3 in the short term. And we have options on the waiver wire like Tyler Algier where we can go through and we can pick up some decent waiver wire pieces. But yeah, I think that's all we are trying to do is maybe see what kind of value you can get from JCM. Because again, you need to be optimizing for points right now, not later. Let me send you over some free questions. I really appreciate you supporting the channel. I really appreciate you hanging out with us in this stream as well, my guy. And I really hope I was able to help you out in some way here. Now, let's move this over to our next question. Okay. CG Vel says, a word I can't pronounce, but let me go ahead and refresh and make sure that this is going to be working for you. Okay, and again, I want to remind everybody in the chat, I understand that the questions are turned off on the site. I'm doing my absolute best to try to catch up with them. And once we catch up, we will turn the questions back on for another 10-ish minutes. Okay. CG Vel. Here we go. Says something I can't pronounce. Tough start, 0-2, no confidence in any starter. Do we have any trade ideas? So we are 0-2, and at the same time, we are, I guess we're kind of right in the middle of the road when it comes to the league analyzer. So looking at moves that we can make as of today, there are easy waiver wire pivots. The first thing being is, while I understand that wide receiver depth matters here, I don't know in what world we're ever playing Cedric Tillman. Like, wide receiver is your strong suit on this team. Like, I get it. Jefferson's disappointing, right? Ladd McConkey is disappointing. But there's still wide receivers you're starting every single week, regardless of matchup. And you would never consider putting in a player like Cedric Tillman over him, even if their team was down to their third string QB. So given how strong the options are on your waiver wire, dropping Cedric Tillman and picking up an option like Ramondre Stevenson, where if you were to get an injury to like Trevion Henderson, we probably rank Ramondre as a must-start running back. I think that's interesting, especially as we currently have Trevion Henderson RB2, who obviously does not look startable. Going over and looking at what we have at receiver on the waiver wire, Jordan Addison is an interesting pickup. If you didn't want to pick up Ramondre, I would drop Cedric Tillman for Jordan Addison anyway. You know what? Honestly, here's what we're going to do. We're going to drop Tillman. We're going to drop Mark Andrews, pick up the combination of Jordan Addison as well as Ramondre Stevenson. And then you are really going to be sending up a prayer that all of a sudden the Minnesota Vikings offense can move the ball down the field if we have the combo of Addison and Jefferson. But quarterback Mahomes, Caleb, I mean, we can just go through and we can just play the matchups between these two guys weekly. Obviously, we have a need at running back too, but selling a quarterback here is not going to do anything for it. And then going over to running back, we have Achane, and then like picking up Ramondre Stevenson, you could start Ramondre over him. Again, Ramondre's had back-to-back games where he's played 65% of the snaps in his offense. If we're going to be looking at what we have with Trevion Henderson, I definitely prefer him in the long term, but in the short term, like just the role simply hasn't been there. And I would like to tell you, let's go through and let's sell Trevion and a wide receiver to go get an upgrade at running back. This team's 0-2. We need points right now, but it's a start 8 format, right? So reasonably, we need to expect that we're starting 4 wide receivers here weekly. And if I'm looking at this, we have Jefferson, Ladd, Marv, Hunter. Like, we sell Marv. You're putting Keon Coleman into our lineup every week. And that's with no injuries. And that's with no bye weeks. Imagine how ugly it would get if all of a sudden, like, we lost a starter for whatever reason. So I'm going to go through and do we make those waiver wire pivots? I would also consider, no, there are no tight ends on waivers that you'd be interested in dropping under Henry for. If you really wanted to cut Henry instead of Andrews, you do you. But my thing with Andrews is this dude's played in 2 games in which the Baltimore Ravens have gone nuclear. And he has scored a combined 2.9 fantasy points. How could you ever put him in your starting lineup? So I would rather have somebody like Ramondre because I could see you easily getting Ramondre in here. Obviously, if you could sell Mahomes and Trevion Henderson and go get a better running back too, we would. And then at that point, you could just pick up another quarterback like Love and play the matchups between Caleb Williams and Jordan Love. But the issue that you're going to run into in that instance is just going to be that nobody's going to be buying Patrick Mahomes from you. You're not going to be able to sell Mahomes or Caleb for anything. You're just kind of stuck with them at this point. But I really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. And again, thank you so much, of course, for hanging out with us in the stream, being a member of the flock. Let me send you over some of those free questions just in case there's anything that you want us to follow up with here. Now, let's move this over to our next question. And here's what I'm going to do real quick. I will open up not start sit questions. I'm going to open up trade questions on the site if anybody wanted to get some trade questions in, because mainly just mentally, I need a little bit of a break here. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's open those up. Okay. Trade questions are open. We'll do a couple more team reviews and then we'll pivot over to trades. Okay. Daniel says, hey, Mason, was looking for a trade, maybe trading Warren for a better RB2, but still need depth. Let me know what you think and what we should do with this team. Love watching your stuff and congrats on the engagement. Thank you so much, my guy. Let me send you over some free questions before I forget about that. And also, we are going to have to make sure that we know which team is yours. So let me go over to the other screen real quick. This is going to be the Dan Lahr team. Just wanted to confirm. So it's a start 8-12 team format. So the depth at the skill position is going to matter a decent bit. But good news is we don't need to worry about rostering a backup quarterback. We don't need to worry about rostering a backup tight end. We have Lamar as well as Sam Laporta. So obviously we are just absolutely chilling here at QB and tight end. Now looking at the waiver wire, obviously the number one thing that we want to be doing every Tuesday is planning to churn running back and planning to churn wide receiver. So right now we have Cam Scat, we have Rashad White, we have Tyler Algier out there on the waiver wire at running back. I would aggressively go after Cam Scatterbo. Like if you do fab bidding, I am dropping Cedric Tillman and I am bidding 40% of my budget on Scat. He is a running back with a great prospect profile that all of a sudden looks like the starting running back in New York 2 weeks into his NFL career. I would also follow up with this and probably drop Darnell Mooney for Khalil Shakir as well. What's actually interesting is last time I checked sportsbook projections, they still kind of had Khalil Shakir as the wide receiver one in this offense over Keon Coleman. So I would drop Mooney, I would drop Tillman, I would pick up Shakir, I would pick up Scat, I would be extremely aggressive with Scat. And then I would also drop Brian Robinson for Rashad White, because we've seen Rashad White with no Bucky Irving. And the last time we had White with no Bucky, he was a running back one in fantasy. So I would go ahead, I would make that swap. And then beyond that, our running back two, not great. We have like Warren, Ramondre Stevenson that we can bounce between. But we're not super excited about either guy. Obviously, Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt's there for the long term. But here's my thing, right? You got to start 6 skill positional players. So you're starting CMC, Jaylen Warren as your top 2 running backs at the moment. You're starting Drake London, Garrett Wilson as your top 2 receivers. And then your flexes are Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt and Calvin Ridley. Like, you can't upgrade a spot. Like, you can't afford to go like, oh, okay, yeah, let's get a better running back too. Let's sell Garrett Wilson and Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt for the best running back too. No, you can't. Because, I mean, just we are simply lackluster when it comes to the skill positional depth, and depth actually matters in a format like this. So your options at this point are, do we sell Lamar and bring in a great running back too? Do we sell Lamar and go get somebody like Achane, go get somebody like Bucky? Or do we just simply play the waiver wire and pick up Scat, pick up White, pick up Shakir, and hope that we get one of these running backs breaking out for us or one of the wide receivers breaking out for us? For me, I would go with plan B. I would just go with the waiver wire options. I don't want to go out there and I don't want to spaz and make like a massive play for running back two. We can survive in the short term with like Jaylen Warren. We can survive in the short term with Ramondre Stevenson. And I think that's just kind of what you got to do. I mean, looking at the current record, we are 1-1. We've scored 264 points, which is right in the middle of the league. And 246 against us is also right in the middle. So yeah, main thing I would do is just be very aggressive with Scat off waivers. And then also churn Brian Robinson for Rashad White, drop Mooney and Tillman for Shakir, and then the other running back we mentioned. But I really appreciate you. Let me send you over some free questions just in case there's anything that you want to follow up with this team with. Actually, I already did that. So here's what I'm going to do real quick. We're going to run back over to the site because I checked my email and we just got 1,000 trade questions sent our way. So let's turn trade questions back off and let's answer some trade questions, and then we'll pivot back over and get to some of these team reviews again. Okay. And let me move this around. Okay. Settings. Team. Let's get through these trade questions again. I just needed a quick break from the team reviews. We've been doing those for like a couple hours. All right. These are the trade questions that got, and this is why I promise y'all I'm trying my best. This is why I cannot have questions open at all times. We had trade questions open for about 5 minutes. And these were all the ones that got sent in. We got about 20 questions sent in. Those are only trades. So if we would have had roster reviews start, sit, and trades opened all at once, it would have been even more. But looking at this, JP trading Jamar Chase, Harold Fannin for Bucky Irving. 14 team format, I probably want the 2 starters here. I think you can get a better running back. Isaiah, we'll get back to the team reviews in just 1 second. Let me get these trades. I feel like if I kept on doing team reviews without taking a little break, they were just going to get really bad. Like I wasn't going to be able to come up with any new ideas. Smokin' Beef trading Achane to Nico, downgrade. Judkins to Hampton, upgrade. Kincaid to Fannin, who cares? I think Achane's the best player in this deal. If you think Nico's going to come through with a massive bounce back, I'm not going to fault you for it, because I do think that Amari and Hampton is still a running back with a ton of long-term upside for sure. Don't get me wrong. Now, Bolivar is actually a restaurant in Austin that I think it's maybe spelled with a U instead of an O, but it's named Bolivar, and it is a phenomenal, phenomenal restaurant. Trading Kyler, Tracy, and London for JT. It's a 10-team league, so Tracy's not worth anything. And yeah, I would way rather have JT here. Who's our other quarterback? Dak. Yeah, just go pick up another QB off waivers. Okay, Iceberg won a bag. Lawrence, JMO versus Wilson, Pittman, and Ferg. It's a Superflex league. Superflex league, give me the Lawrence side easily. Superflex league, Lawrence, Wilson, Tomato. I'd rather have JMO over Pittman. Actually, we just have a ton of... Like, here, if you wanted to make this deal, take the receivers out of it. If you wanted to trade Lawrence for Wilson and Ferg, let's go for that. But I don't feel like we need to include the down tier at wide receiver. Zach says, got an offer, Devontae Adams plus Swift for Brian Thomas Jr. How bad do we need a running back? I think it's a fair deal. I still have Brian Thomas Jr. as the best asset in this. Obviously, Adams has crushed him so far this season. If DeAndre Swift's going to go to your bench, give me Brian Thomas. But if instead DeAndre Swift's going to hit your starting lineup, then sure, believe this. You can go with the running backs. Now, Klume with our next one. This is T. Higgins versus Rashee Rice. Here's what I'm going to do right now. I have T. Higgins in the Flock League. I will put my money where my mouth is. I will go and send an offer for Rashee Rice right now. Think Nick has him. Who has him? Actually, this is Dynasty. Dynasty, we do it. Let me think. Can I afford to do this in redraft? Dynasty, we do it no brainer. Okay. I can't afford to do this because then I'm starting freaking Diggs. Yeah. I'll have to wait until Diggs breaks out to do that. So never mind. I'm not going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm not going to offer that. But for a Dynasty League, yeah, go get Rashee Rice over T. Higgins easily. Now, Kookie Bob with our next one. Here we're trading Javonte and Waddle for Rashee Rice and Laporta. So redraft league. Javonte versus Rice. Give me Rice slightly. Laporta versus Waddle. Waddle popped up on the injury report today, which is going to be something that we definitely need to monitor. This isn't an easy call by any means. We have the production at running back where you can afford this. And because it's a shallower format, I think you can go ahead and you can take the Rice and Laporta side. Okay. But yeah, again, I think it's a super fair trade. It's Josh's first year playing. Love the content. I'm 0-2. Well, hopefully we can turn this ship around. I think you got to keep Brian Thomas here. I understand you lost McCarthy. What does your waiver wire look like? If you can pick up Daniel Jones for free, I would rather just hold on to Brian Thomas and Kyler. Drop McCarthy, pick up Daniel Jones, and then play the quarterback matchups from there. Now, Jay Carroll says, starting 0-2, Yeah, best ranked. Any suggestions? 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, well-balanced team. Maybe you need to sell some of the rookies considering the fact that you're 0-2. You need points now. Jersey says, thanks for the content. I think it's a decent trade. Appreciate you, my guy. Here, Keon versus Mar. Give me Mar by a mile. Kamara versus A.J. Brown. It's Kamara, but just slightly. A.J. Brown, super low floor, but still really high ceiling. And this is an 8-team league, so you can afford to just chase the ceiling here. See, I'm fine if you wanted to go with the wide receivers. Now, Capetillo, this is JCM Matthew Golden versus Hampton and Keon Coleman. Okay. Give me Keon over Golden. Give me Hampton over JCM. I'm trying to think of a reason why we wouldn't do this. No, like I would still rather have Hampton over Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt easily. Now, Dat Boy with our next one says, curious if this is the move or focusing on wide receiver depth. So getting a significant upgrade at quarterback, what running backs would we be left over with? We'd have CMC and Bucky. Quarterback, we'd have Lamar. Wide receiver, we'd have JSN, Egbuka, Harrison. I think it's a fair trade. Full PPR format, if you wanted to go out there and make this move, if you're a believer in Marv, you can do it. Marv will probably need to be a high-end wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 1 minimum, though, if this trade's going to work out for you. Now, Squiggly Juggernaut is trading Chuba and Puka for Lamar, Chubb, and JMO. Okay. Chuba to JMO downgrade. Puka versus Lamar and Chubb. I'd way rather have Puka. So we're going to go with the Puka side. Now, Kieran says, panicking over the running back room. Not one team is a bot, so their roster appears on the waivers. Okay. Well, Kayshon Boutte is worth legitimately nothing for me at this point. Like, I don't know if he's even worth the roster spot. So you're trading Devonta Smith for Breece Hall, and yeah, I'd rather have Breece Hall there easily. Now, Tudo says, Mason the GOAT won 3 out of 6 leagues. Because you any suggestions on who to trade for? I think you probably need a running back if we were going to grade out positions, and I'd probably cut McCarthy too. Now, Butto with our next one. This is Judy and JMO versus Tet. It's a 12-team start 8 format. Leftover, we would have Puka, Tet as our only viable receivers. I like the value that you're getting here for Tet, but to be frank, like, Boutte's a 0 and Jaden Higgins is a 0 at this point as well. So your depth just simply isn't there. Like, I don't think you can afford to make the... If it was a start 2 wide receiver 1 flex, then sure. But here, I don't think you can. Okay, now Tommy C3 with our next one. This is Jalen Hurts, Marvin Harrison, Harold Fannin for Josh Allen. Yeah, this is a no-brainer. Because if I'm looking at this, I'd way rather have Josh Allen over Jalen Hurts. I'd way rather have, I mean, Tyler Warren versus Marvin Harrison's about the same thing. So if they're about the same player, and you're trading Harold Fannin for RG Harvey, I feel like you're upgrading at 2 spots and having a lateral move where we send a wide receiver for a tight end. So yeah, you take the Josh Allen side here and you absolutely run. Now, Jay Jensen Fitz trading Barkley and Wilson for Chase Brown and Puka Nacua. Give me Puka over Barkley. Give me Chase Brown over Garrett Wilson. So yeah, this is easily the Puka side. And I say that as somebody who currently has Saquon Barkley on their team. Let's refresh this, see if we had any more trade questions. And if not, we'll bounce back over to team reviews. We got a couple more in. This is E-Rock says, could add Johnston Pearsall if needed. Do you think they'll take it? They're 0-2 and are down bad. Is this really a 9-team league? What's available on the waiver wire in this league? Godwin, Ridley, Addison. If Ridley's on your waiver wire, my guy, add both Johnston and Pearsall. Trade all 5 of Trey Benson, Garrett Wilson, Igbuka, Ricky Pearsall, and Quentin Johnston for CeeDee Lamb. That'd be an absolute no-brainer, and you could just go over and you could just backfill with options that you have from waivers really easily. Now, Marked DJ says 0-2. I want to move off Rice. League is picky with trades. Best I can do talking to the others. So if you're 0-2, I completely understand it, right? But the thing is, Devonta Smith would have to be hitting our starting lineup because I would rather have Rice in the majority of scenarios over Smith. So if we're looking at this current setup, right now we're starting lineups like Bijan and Harvey, and then JSN, Judy, and Shakir. So Smith is hitting your lineup here. If you're 2-0, I would never do this. I would go, man, you just got to roll with the bad lineup until Rice comes back. And then obviously Rice would be significantly better than Smith. But if you're 0-2 and it's like, hey, if I don't start winning games right now, I'm done. My ass is grass. Like you honestly may just have no option. You may have to make this play. Obviously, I'm going to go to every single owner in our league and I'm going to try to do absolutely everything that I can to get a better price for Rasheed Rice than this. But if this is the best you're going to get, this is the best you're going to get. Okay, so I think we can go back over to the team reviews. And let's get through some of these teams. All right. So our next team that we have to look at is going to be Stevens25. Appreciate you hanging out with us in the stream, my guy. I'm sorry that it's taken us so long to get to this for you. It says, what trades could I make to improve the team? Thank you. Thank you. So we are the 3rd team currently with the league analyzer. So looking at this current setup, we are 1-1. We have 191 points for. So we are kind of in the middle of the league in terms of total points. And we may have to change the team name now that Young Ho Koo is cut. But what's nice to see is there are actually some very easy waiver wire moves that we can make. So it's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league. So first thing that I'll mention is wide receiver depth's not going to be super important in a league like yours. Like realistically, we have 6 wide receivers with value on this team, and you can only start 3 at the very most. So you probably sat Igbuka this week. So my first thing that I try to do is I'm trying to sell a wide receiver with a tight end to get a tight end upgrade, or with a QB to get a QB upgrade. Like if you could go Adams and Fields to try to go get to, you're not going to get to Lamar, you're not going to get to Allen. Try to go get to Jaden Daniels, try to go get to Jalen Hurts. Let's go for it. Because then Sutton slides up to wide receiver 2, Igbuka slides up to wide receiver 3. If we can send Devontae Adams and Harold Fannin and get to McBride and get to Bowers, it's an absolute no-brainer. And there's no questions for it. So selling a wide receiver for an upgrade at a onesie is plan A. I think Adams is going to be the guy you'll have the easiest time to sell because Adams is coming off a tremendous week as opposed to every other wide receiver that we have is not. Then our plan B with this, which is also very simple, is just packaging together 2 wide receivers to get an upgrade inside the starting lineup. Can we sell Egbuka and Ricky Pearsall for Ladd McConkey? Just a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. I'm sorry, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. Give me the better wide receiver and let's open a roster spot up so we can go and pick up somebody like Byshell Tootin for free. And with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to cut Dylan Sampson. We'll pick up Byshell Tootin. I think here with your team and with your league settings, Tootin gives you significantly more upside here rest of season. And another thing that we got to do with the Justin Fields injury is going to be we're cutting Troy Franklin, who obviously Franklin looks great, but it's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league where you have 6 great receivers. There's no way Troy Franklin ever hits your starting lineup here where you could just reasonably cut him and pick up Michael Penix, where Penix will hit your starting lineup right now. But trying to think if there's anything else. We could do with this. It's just stupid simple. Cut Franklin, pick up Penix. Cut Dylan Sampson, pick up Tootin. Try to sell a wide receiver with either a quarterback or a tight end for an upgrade at one of those positions. If we strike out there where nobody shows interest, then we're just going to try to attach 2 wide receivers together and up tier to get a better name. But it shouldn't be that hard to actually do that because it's a 12-team league. So 12-team format, I mean, there should be a team or 2 that actually is lacking depth that would be willing to trade you for something. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this, my friend. Now, let's move this over to our next question here. This one's going to be coming out from Nick. And, okay, yeah. It's a super flex league. Okay, so I was going to say that. If this is, so ignore the league analyzer here. The league analyzer is saying that we have by far and away the best team in this league where nobody can come remotely close to us. It's definitely a lot closer if it's a super flex format because the league analyzer is pulling in a 1 QB league. Like we're 1-1 with this. And the reason is because obviously quarterback's not great. But 12-team PPR super flex is traded for Puka and Lamb. I feel like it won't be enough to go up against the elite QBs. Yeah, the fact of the matter is you need to trade for an elite QB. Because you have CeeDee Lamb, Puka Nacua, Nico Collins, Brian Thomas, Nick. Is there any way that you're in this live stream? Because if you're in this live stream, I need to know how many wide receivers can we start? Because honestly, if you're in a league where you can start 5 wide receivers weekly, it's like, hey man, it's a league where we start 3 receivers mandatory and we have 2 flex spots, then F it. Who cares about our quarterback position? We're actually going to be able to survive as is. But if it's a league where it's like, hey, I only have 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, and then 1 super flex, there you'll be in a world of pain. Now, looking at what we have with quarterbacks on waivers, Jake Browning is somebody that you need to pick up here. I mean, Jake Browning or Bryce Young. There are only 2 starting quarterbacks effectively on the waiver wire that are going to be starters for the majority of the rest of the season. If Brandon Ayuk was on your bench, I would cut Ayuk for one of these QBs. If Ayuk is on your IR and that's not going to open up a roster spot for us, instead we would go ahead and we would just simply cut Trey Benson. As much as I love Trey Benson, obviously I would not want to cut him, but I think it would be worth it where we are phenomenal with the skill positions. And our biggest concern is going to be quarterback. Nick's saying it's a start for a wide receiver max. Is that including or not including the super flex? Because if it's like a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, then a super flex, I'm treating that as if it's a start 3 wide receiver league, to be honest with you. But if it's a league where it's like you can start 4 wide receivers and then the super flex where you can start up to like you can start 2 QBs and 4 wide receivers at the same time, then I love your team. And honestly, if that's the spot, I don't think you do anything with it. But I have a feeling it's like not that. I have a feeling it's no, you actually can only start 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, and then a super flex. Nick says including super flex. Okay. So then you're telling me that we have Brian Thomas and Ted McMillan on our bench every week. So in my opinion, in that case, you just absolutely need to go through and you need to sell one of the wide receivers. Like, the question is, can we find a team that is desperate enough at wide receiver that they're willing to give us a QB upgrade? Let's sort this by the teams in the league that are worst at wide receiver. Why is this not, why did that not sort? Okay, here we go. Now we're sorted. Okay, this team has Terry McLaurin, Jacoby Myers, Jordan Addison, Keenan Allen. They also have Allen and Lamar. Is there any way we can get to Josh Allen here? Can we send them CeeDee Lamb for Josh Allen? Can we send them CeeDee Lamb for Lamar Jackson? I would swap 1 for 1 if possible. Because then you have Puka, Nico, Brian Thomas still as your 3 wide receivers. This team doesn't have a second quarterback, so they're not going to give us Hurts. This team has like Travis Hunter, Romeo Doubs, Adam Thielen as their wide receivers 3 through 5. Is there a world in which we can get to Baker Mayfield? Like, can we send Tet for Baker? The issue is most of these teams with garbage wide receiver rooms also have quarterbacks that we're not excited about. This team had the Burrow injury, so we're going to have to be very aggressive with them to get Browning off waivers. This team is the Godwin injury, so they have like Jennings and Golden, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 at the moment. Could we send a Puka? Like, I love Puka Nacua, don't get me wrong. But Superflex League, where we have Ted McMillan as our wide receiver 5, Brian Thomas our wide receiver 4. Can we send Puka Nacua for Jaden Daniels? It's super straightforward what this team needs to do and what this team would want to do. And it's just trying to find a way to sell one of those top-end wide receivers for one of those top-end QBs. That's the only relevant thing for us here. If you're able to do that, and you're able to send, say, Lamb for Josh Allen, and then we have Allen, Daniel Jones in at quarterback superflex, Gibbs, Hampton in at running back, Puka, Nico, Brian Thomas in at wide receivers in the flex, and then Tyler Warren at tight end, you all by far and away the best team in this league, and it won't even be remotely close. But I think you probably need to go through and you probably need to find a way to make one of those swaps. But I really appreciate you. Really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. But obviously, incredible team. And because it's an incredible team, you can afford the elite QB. Now, let's move this over to Smoggy Curl says, will PMs help find a trade? I need a better running back core. I think Allen will have low upside when his team is had a lot, no reason to throw. Maybe average 21 points. I want to trade Ladd, Herbert's targeting the big Q. I think from what it sounds like, and I'm sorry to be an ass, I think you're just overreacting to the first 2 weeks. Josh Allen still has an incredibly high ceiling. Ladd McConkey's going to be okay. I really hope the big Q comes through and crushes rest of season, but Aldi would like to trade Williams, 2 targets, blah. He's better at fantasy, running back, and need help. Okay, so we are currently the 3rd team in the league analyzer, and this is a league in which depth at the skill positions matters a ton. The reason being is this is a start 9 format. So with this being a start 9 league, you're starting quarterback, we're starting a tight end every week, but then you got to start a total of 7 skill positions. We are currently 2-0, so we're in a really good spot. And we're in a 2-0 with no Rashee Rice, with Ladd McConkey disappointing. And I'm not the biggest Jameson Williams guy in the world, but what I will say is this is the exact kind of format that you would want Jameson Williams, to be honest with you. Wide receiver, we have Neighbors, we have Ladd. let's just count it out, right? In the short term, we're starting CMC, Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason is a lifesaver for this team to have Trevion Henderson. So we still have Trevion in the long term, Jordan Mason in the short term. So we have those two running backs locked in, the Neighbors, Ladd, JMO, Ridley, and then our last spot we're choosing between Quentin Johnston and Trevion Henderson. So the depth matters to an extreme where, like, you know what, man? I mean, like, what are we worried about with this team? This team is set up perfectly for this league. I would for sure cut Dylan Sampson. There's no world in which you are ever putting Dylan Sampson into your starting lineup now that Quinshon Judkins is the starter. Like, Dylan Sampson is the backup running back, possibly behind two guys in the worst offense in the league. So I would cut Dylan Sampson. I would honestly probably just rather have Joe Mixon. Going over to tight end, I would cut David Njoku. I'd pick up your favorite guy between Zach Ertz or Harold Fannin. But man, this is a good team. If this was a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, I'd want to make a trade. But you're in the exact situation that I would want to be in. Maybe our last flex spot's a little bit weak, but you're 2-0. We can afford for it to be weak right now and then get the Trevion Henderson upside in the long term and the Rashee Rice upside in the long term. So you're in a really good spot. I don't, other than those 2 waiver wire moves, you sit on your hands. Do not make a trade. Do not overreact to the first 2 weeks. And I don't even know why you would overreact to the first 2 weeks when we're sitting at 2-0. Now let's go over to this next one. This is coming out from Russ Montes. 12-team app PPR was first in the analyzer until this week. Any moves we should consider? Most league mates are stingy on trades, but some creative moves can work. Considering picking up Franklin and dropping DJ Giddens, how heavy should I go on the fab? Well, let's check this out. So good to know that this is a fab league, so we can try to give you advice with that for tonight. So looking at what we have with this team, we are currently 6th in the league analyzer. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. If I was cutting somebody on this team, it would not be DJ Giddens. DJ Giddens is an injury away from potentially being a league winning player. Kayshon Boutte, on the other hand, just had 1 target in this game. I understand that 1 target was for a touchdown. I understand that 1 target he looked really good with, highlight grab, blah, blah, blah. But, like, if I'm cutting somebody, it's Kayshon Boutte. Looking at what we have with the other options on the waiver wire, like, I don't even know if Troy Franklin's going to be the guy I go after because, and I understand, obviously, this team fell because we had the Joe Burrow injury impacting Jamar Chase's value dramatically, right? Chase just went from being like either the 1st or 2nd overall player in fantasy rankings to here I have him 13th. But it's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. You're never starting Troy Franklin over Jamar Chase, Garrett Wilson. And for your flex, I don't know if you're ever starting him over Ricky Pearsall, DJ Moore, Jalen Waddle. Like, I don't know if you need to be rostering his 6th wide receiver with this team. Like, in my opinion, even after the Burrow injury, your running back room is still extremely weak in comparison to your wide receiver, especially if you're saying this is a half PPR format where running backs are slightly more optimal in the flex anyway. So looking at what we can do here, if I know all our league mates are going to be running out there and they're going to be going to get Troy Franklin, I think you pick up Braylon Allen. I think you just add a handcuff running back to the bottom end. I don't want to bench. I don't want to drop DJ Giddens because, again, I think Giddens is the kind of player that you want in this league. Like Bray Davis, DJ Giddens, Braylon Allen, just loading up the bottom of your bench with these names that could 5x in value overnight if their situations were to change. So we have the elite quarterback with Allen. Running back, we have Kyron Pollard as starters in the short term. Long term, I am not that excited about this running back room because long term, I do think that we're going to need to be concerned that Tajee Spears takes work from Tony Pollard. Which, if that does happen here, then obviously Pollard becomes less exciting. But that's why we want to load up on as many of these names that we possibly can on the bench to possibly get a random spike from running backs. So do not pick up Franklin. Do not make any irrational trades. If you wanted to sell a wide receiver with Pollard after this week, if we have a big spike from one of these options to go get a running back upgrade, I would like to. But the fundamental issue that we're going to have with that is just the fact that we can't sell Wilson, Ricky, DJ Moore, and none of these. Maybe Waddle somebody will buy after the big week. Like, I would try to sell a receiver with Tony Pollard to get the long-term upgrade at running back too. But from what I've seen in these streams, what I've seen with these trades and with these teams is I'm not finding too many people that are really excited to go out there and try to get Pollard. But I really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. And again, thank you so much for being a member of the vlog. Let me send you over some of those free questions. Just in case you have anything that you want to follow up with. It seems going to be fine. Obviously, the Burrow injury hurts a bunch having Chase. But you're 2-0 for a reason. One thing you could consider is if you wanted to try to trade like Ricky Pearsall or DJ Moore for Rashee Rice and just get the long-term appeal of it, that would make a lot of sense as well. Now let's move this over to Mason P. Says, we won last week even without anyone taking trades. I kept offering pretty fair deals, but nobody's budging. I got offered Swift and Brown for Hubbard, and I don't think that's good. What is the Brown side? Is that if it's Hollywood, it's garbage. If that's AJ Brown, hell yeah, go get AJ Brown and DeAndre Swift. I'm trying to abuse the waiver wire, but I need a second avenue. Okay. Kyle F's dudes. Okay. So we checked out your team previously, right? I don't see this. I don't see Kyle F dudes. I see Kyle can't win. Let me see if I can find you another way. Your team name another way. Okay, so this is from Mason P. Yeah, this is Kyle can't win. Just confirming. So we're 2-0, 271 points for. Third highest mark in the league. So we should be second in the league at the moment in terms of the standings. So it's a league in which you can start up to 4 wide receivers weekly. It's a start 8 format. The number one thing that we do right this second is we pick up Judkins and we pick up Scadaboo. There are a couple different ways that we can go about this. Like going over and looking at the waiver wire just to get a sense of what our league mates leave out there as a replacement level player. On waivers, there's Drake May, Jared Goff, Caleb Williams, Daniel Jones. Like, it looks like this is a 10-team league where a lot of people in your league are only rostering one quarterback. So realistically, quarterback is kind of easy to come by in this spot. Going over and looking at running back, you got solid running backs out there. Wide receivers, honestly, wide receivers kind of weaker, which is interesting. And then tight end like Jake Ferguson, Zach Ertz are out there. So tight ends fine, quarterbacks very easy to come by as well. So as I look at this, I know this is maybe not going to be like what you would think, but again, Judkins and Scadaboo are by far and away the best pickups right now. Judkins first, and I would be very aggressive with him as well. I would look to drop Kyle Pitts for Judkins now that it appears we can start Tucker Kraft every single week regardless of matchup, especially with the Jaden Reed injury. And to follow with this, I would also consider dropping Dak Prescott for Cam Scatterboo, because the thing is, you have Drake May, Jared Goff, Caleb Williams, Daniel Jones on the waiver wire. So quarterback, super easy to come by. Your league's like my league. Like if you ever needed a quarterback, you can just go and grab them for free. So I don't think you need a roster 2 QBs here. I mean, it's definitely fine to do, but just because the waiver wire options are so strong with Judkins and Scat, I would drop the backup tight end. I would drop the backup quarterback. And then with that in mind, if you pick up both Judkins and Scatterboo, all of a sudden the running back depth, it's expendable for you. If Ja'Cory Krosky-Mara is your RB4, Judkins is your RB5, Scat's your RB6, I want to upgrade wide receiver. I want to send Kyron Williams and Cortland Sutton. I want to go get a true number 1 option. I'm going to offer Chuba Hubbard and Cortland Sutton, and I'm going to offer it for Nico Collins. I'm going to offer it for Drake London. Hell, if they reject, maybe you go over to Brian Thomas. I'm going to offer Chuba Hubbard and Devonta Smith and see if we can go out. And the issue is there just aren't that many. Let's see what teams need running back, right? This team has Brees, Jordan Mason, Montgomery. They have CeeDee Lamb. Is there a world in which we can sell Chuba and Jefferson for Lamb? Chuba and Devonta Smith for Ladd McConkey. I know that sounds aggressive, but it's a shallower league. You have these free options off the waiver wire. You make a move like that, you can just hold on to Dak Prescott if you didn't want to have to drop him. So if we're looking at your current setup here, I think it's easy to just move on from Dak, move on from Pitts, pick up the additional running backs, and you'll have so much running back depth that we can afford to go out there and try to trade for an elite wide receiver by packaging together like Kyron and Hubbard and one of those options. But let me send you over some free questions just in case there's anything that you want to follow up with here. Really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out with this, my guy. And it looks like we got the Notorious Fantasy out in the chat right now. Appreciate you stopping by, my guy, and hope that you're doing very well on this Tuesday night. But it is getting late. It's almost 11 p.m. where I'm at. And I actually have to have a meeting with the dev team right now because we're about to launch a new feature for the rankings page. And at the same time, I have to record a video for tomorrow. So I know there are 3 team reviews from today that we still didn't get to. Those will be the first team reviews that we do in the live stream tomorrow. If you're not in the stream, don't worry. The site will send everything over your way. You should be good. But really appreciate y'all hanging out with us. I'll be up for the next 3 or 4 hours making this video and making sure that the rankings launch on the site goes well. But again, I want to beg and plead, get on my hands and knees and go, please, sir. If you haven't already, make sure you go down, drop a like on this live stream, subscribe to the channel. And if you were frustrated that you weren't able to send in a question with this stream, I would recommend hitting the bell next to the subscribe button, because every single stream, we're going to go into it with only 2 to 3 team reviews that we have to do. So we're going to have questions on at the beginning of the stream for the first 15, 20 minutes. So if you can come to the beginning of the live streams, you can submit your questions as always. And yeah, so just make sure you subscribe, hit the bell. Really appreciate you. I'm going to be grinding my little booty away tonight. I wish I could stream longer, but if I did, I wouldn't get to sleep tonight. And I would like to, but thank you again. Appreciate y'all. And I'll see you out in the live stream tomorrow.